This law handed over to this private bank all of the money and credit of the United States, which was a pretty good day's work. And it kept it ever since. Because they set it up as a monopoly so that the stock of the Federal Reserve banks could never be traded publicly. It could only be handed down in a family. And Tommy Rockwell was one of the biggest holders, and he had his stock placed under the Rockefeller Foundation, so it could never be bought or sold.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings.
It's the need for new world order. Someday, in the next few years, a solution will emerge.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
Everyone's doing well. The spring is here. It's a beautiful day here in Northwest Connecticut. Beautiful day. A lot of things to go over. I have a little bit of news here. I also thought it would be relevant to bring out some of Eustace Mullins' work, The World Order, revolving around how this fraud of the IRS and the Federal Reserve came about. So I think that'll be interesting. We can delve a little into that. But on the bottom of the hour, at that would be 5:30. Bottom of this half hour, we will have Joe Banister joining us. So I'm looking forward to that. Yep. Vinny, you know how this whole thing came about? You know the background, of course. You want to give a little insight, and then I'll chime in too. The Federal Reserve and the IRS. How this fraud was perpetrated.
Well, I am, a researcher, but I definitely am not an expert, and that's why it's great to have someone like Joe Banister and go to other people like BB Kid, and there's obviously a lot of people who know more than me and you. But a little bit, like I said, I've been trying to do the best I can. To me, one of the interesting things I noticed was like 1868, to me, was this special time where I think that's the 14th Amendment they did, and they did these Bill of Rights in 1910. And to me, that seems like when we no longer were sovereign, and it became the corporation.
Of the United States, right.
Yes, to where we were no longer, no more sovereign, and we became these corporate things where, we've had the shows about the sovereigns, and that's something I noticed. I'd like to clarify with Joe and see what he says about the 14th Amendment. The one that everyone talks about is the 16th Amendment, and just to let people know, I have, big-time accountants in my family. My Aunt Linda is actually the accountant for the Bronx Zoo, and my sister is a really good accountant. So when you talk to accountants about the IRS, and I would say these things to my sister, probably 3 years ago, I was already, having this argument with my sister and accountants and people, and they tell me, the 16th Amendment is I'd say, well, can you show me the law? Can you show me, can you tell me, just like a lot of us seeing with freedom of fascism, obviously that's where I found out about Joe Banister, and I'm sure a lot of people, but they got into that, and that was my thing. So, okay, can you show me the law saying that people have to pay income tax? And my sister, like many people, said, oh, the 16th Amendment. And when I looked into that, and, and again, I'm not the only one, and a lot better people with more research have proved that it wasn't ratified, that they tried to sneak it by. I heard at first that there was a couple states, but again, hopefully Joe could answer.
It was ratified by 3 states. 3 states ratified.
And now I seen that, but then I also seen something where it said no states actually did.
Fully ratified,
you know,
right.
again, 305, you know, maybe Joe or an expert could let us know.
Good point.
Yeah, but either way, even if it was 5 or whatever, it wasn't a majority or anything to pass this law. So it's the state law that accountants and people that, you know, are part of the system, that's what they were told. Hey, this amendment says it, and none of them go and check to see that it was never ratified.
That's
so
right.
That one's a big one. And the other amendment I'd like to bring up is the Fifth Amendment, which a lot of people probably know. The Fifth Amendment to where you don't have to self-incriminate yourself. So that's another thing I heard, you know, from years is about the income taxes. Here it is, you're, you know, signing this information and you're giving, you know, a lot of information, and if you mess up or you do something wrong, you can get in trouble. So the fact that we have the Fifth Amendment and it's very obvious, like, you don't have to incriminate yourself. I've seen a lot of people arguing that, like, with the Fifth Amendment. I don't have to incriminate myself. I don't have to, you know, be a part of that. And you know, even if you did nothing wrong, let's say you just made a mathematical error, what does that mean? You're going to get in trouble? So why bother? Why incriminate yourself? It's like what I talk about with getting pulled over with a cop, and they always try to tell me, oh, talk to me, don't you know? Talk to me, and I'll help you out. And I laugh. You know, I told you guys, like, no, there's no point. I'm not going to incriminate myself. Everything I say you're going to use against me. You're not helping. So same thing I would see. I look at it with the income tax, the Fifth Amendment, and say I don't have to incriminate myself. So you know, that's really interesting to me too.
Yeah.
These amendments. So that's some of the stuff. Looking up Joe Banister stuff. I guess we'll plug it right now.
Sure.
His website is freedomabovefortune.com, which I think is a great name. You know, freedom above money, basically. freedomabovefortune.com. And then I see he actually does a radio show on Saturdays from 7 to 9 Pacific time. And, you know, so Banister's doing stuff. Like you said, also, 5:30?
Yeah, he said he called the station and said that he'd be about a half an hour behind. So we could be expecting him shortly. So he did call in.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
What about let's mention freedom to fascism.
Yeah, let's go there.
Honestly, that's probably the biggest thing.
That's what woke me up. That movie woke me up. That's what started my awakening to the New World Order. In 2007 is when I actually started to wake up, and that whole process of taking really a few years to actually wake up completely and really drink it all in, and then a few years to just sort of, you know, what am I going to, you know, I don't know. It was like there was a period of time where I was afraid to sort of say what I learned because of fear of, again, being ridiculed and being called an idiot or a liar or a bit worse, crazy, you know. So I have to admit that that's part of the awakening period, is that you go into this state where you're afraid to really share what you know, and then you might like slowly like tell something to a friend and they'll just shoot you down. Oh, you're crazy, that's nuts. And then you're like, oh, that discourages you.
Especially the IRS. Everybody's afraid of the IRS. I mean,
right.
Talk to everybody's like, they're afraid of them more than any organization, it seems like.
I was so enraged when I saw that movie, and then the reality is it's absolutely true. There is no law that says we have to pay income tax. Taxes have to be abortion, right?
It's voluntary.
Right. It's a voluntary tax, and it's unconstitutional because you either have a direct or indirect tax, or it's an unapportioned tax. It's not. The whole concept is against the Constitution. But again, these are bankers who have worked since after Lincoln. The Banking Reform Act that Lincoln was planning for, I mean, there was a lot of reasons why they killed Lincoln, and just like they killed Kennedy, for the very same reasons. Again, trying to give the people their money, trying to keep to get the central banks out of their way. They wanted to get exorbitant loans, so Lincoln said, well, we don't need you, we can print our own money. Right, and then same thing, Kennedy did the same thing, and with the $32 billion in silver certificates he circulated in 1963, 100 years after that, and that was, oh boy, that didn't take very long for them to kill him after that. So,
the two presidents killed.
Yeah, so he was showing that but you know what? Back then, there wasn't this. They couldn't get away with this now. If we could actually get a real liberty-minded president, like a real, like Ron Paul as president, okay? And they were to kill Ron Paul, okay? It would never, ever, ever be able to be covered up because people are so awake to the criminals that have hijacked our government. Criminals who own the shares of the IRS and own the shares of the Federal Reserve. By the way, did you know, maybe you don't, that the owners of the IRS are the same owners of the Federal Reserve System? Did you realize that? That they're two private corporations?
Yeah, I did.
Did you realize that Chase Manhattan Bank? It's funny, I had some newspaper stuff in the newspaper, and a couple of people are sounding off, and it's cool, you know, in the Hartford Courant, talking about the fact that Chase Manhattan Bank benefits from like all of from so many things. Well, it was Chase Manhattan. It's J.P. Morgan Chase. But they are absolutely entrenched. This Federal Reserve Bank is entrenched in our economy, and part of the reason why we're suffering is because Bank of America is under Rothschild's control.
And what about Gaddafi? Wasn't that the thing with Gaddafi? Wasn't it Gaddafi wanted to have gold and not his money back by, you know, and be part of the Federal Reserve?
Hey, listen, I joined the John Birch Society, and they sent me this. If you're watching on the live stream, you'll see it. I got the New American. The cover says Christian Massacre is a result of U.S. foreign policy, and it's absolutely true. You know, we talk about how the New World Order is attacking religion, and this is a stealth attack because in Libya, you talk about Libya, you talk about Afghanistan. As much as these people are bad, what they basically did was all of these regimes, as we know, had some issues. Of course, they're obviously not good people. But look who's attacking them, and NATO's coming in there with love bombs, killing 30,000 people in Libya to free them and take over, so Chase can get a bank there. And take all the gold, and you know what's going on. So this is what the New World Order, these collectivists do. But he was good to the people, and as much as people don't understand that, he was good to the Christians and to the Jews. These regimes that they're knocking down are actually have tolerances. Even Saddam Hussein, and this is again from the New American, this current April issue, April 23rd. Former Iraqi tyrant Saddam Hussein, who despite being generally brutal, was known for protecting Christians and minorities. Okay? It's true. This is all true. It's the same thing. So there is actually this intentional growth of violence from Muslim against Christian. It's really true. And it's not a conspiracy theory, and I'm not some right-wing Christian nut, you know, telling you this. I'm a libertarian.
No, it's about who plays ball with the New World Order. And
right.
It doesn't matter what race or what country. You do what they say, and if you do it, then you stay in power, and you have nice things and a nice palace. But the minute you don't do one thing, then you're demonized, and then all these horrible stories come out, and then they gotta.
Well, look what happened now. Their Christians are being murdered, like incredibly murdered, horribly. Like it's just underreported, but it's true. Since these people have been taken down, so again, you know, it's just a factual thing you have to look at. And there was something else that I saw in here that was really interesting. Regarding this. Yeah, go ahead.
I would like the listeners to hear is you're talking about Christians being murdered. One of the famous guys is, what was his name? Nelson Mandela and Willie. Willie Mandela. They were actually slaughtering and killing thousands, hundreds of thousands of Christians and white people. And he won the Nobel Peace Prize. And he's, you know.
Obama won the Nobel Peace Prize, brother.
Great guy. Thousands of Christians in Africa, Mandela, but they don't tell you that. They tell you he's, great guy.
And these terrible things. It's like this big fraud with the United Nations. Everybody, you know, listen to me, hear my voice, and research the true intentions of these globalists. It's all on record. You can read their writings. You can read their documents. You can go to the Club of Rome. It says a lot about what they really want to do to us as a race of people, not as humanity. It really doesn't care. But the way they're doing this is little by little. You know, you can't eat an elephant, or how do you get rid of 6 billion people? Well, you can't do it quickly. You do it a little bit at a time, and over a little bite at a time. And this is what they're doing, dividing the people to kill themselves, to create this police state so that the Christians and everyone will fight against each other, and the Muslims and the Jews, and then the racism and all of this. And I was on the phone the other night, and we're going to try to go into we're going to do a special show in the future with Barbara Hartwell discussing this very topic of how pretty much the anti-Semitism and this really calling the Zionists and the Jews and this whole thing, and this how is really affecting this whole thing, and it's all connected to this killing. It's the same thing. They are destroying all religions. Now they'll use the Muslims to obtain as much death as they can, and then once they already demonized them for doing this. And it's so funny because my son and I were laughing earlier. We were watching one after the other. You know the police squad movies. Remember with Leslie Nielsen in the '90s and O.J. Simpson. Naked Gun and O.J. Simpson. Remember that? Okay. There was actually a TV show for a while, and I remember it. Now it's so fucking crazy that we're watching this, and they're talking about demonizing Arab terrorists, and they're all the terrorists that they're all Arab terrorists, and they're blowing up terrorists, and they're Arabs. And then Bush is talking about global warming. 1991, they have a caricature of Bush in the toilet talking about, okay, we have to do global warming bad, this is good. And it was just hilarious. And looking at this propaganda that they, now knowing what I know, and it's so funny. I've seen the movie many times, but not from the eyes of an awoken soul. And it's so, listen, ladies and gentlemen, everybody loves those movies. Go watch them and look at look at what that was going on in the 90s, and then look at what's happening today. How they demonized these, subconsciously got everybody sort of like to hate these, basically Arab-type terrorists, and getting people conditioned to the idea of terrorism, and then creating, this Bush guy creates the federal police squad in the movie, and it's a comedy. So you got to understand where this is really going. This is true social control, mind control.
Oh yeah, it right away it reminds me of that documentary I always talk about. To me, it's still the greatest documentary ever. Was The Arrivals, and one of the parts is they do a whole thing on that of the media versus Muslims, and it was way before 9/11. They already had the going, like you said. They need the Schwarzenegger and all these people were going, and they had it all. Like,
what about True Lies?
These crazy Muslims screaming Allah and blowing stuff up. They were doing it for years to get us ready. To
accept it when it happened.
9/11, and right away, we've been watching for years. Arnold Schwarzenegger fight these people. These are our enemy. And
well, again, Vinny,
I remember. Yeah.
No, I was saying, I told you, and finish your thought. Go ahead. I have a comment. Finish your thought.
No, I was just going to finish with, I also remember when 9/11 happened, one of the movies was actually coming out that Arnold was doing, and they were going to be using the Muslims, like all the movies were, to make them as terrorists. But because 9/11 literally happened, and the movie was supposed to be coming out that month, they got pushed back. I can't remember the name.
No, it was Collateral Damage. Collateral Damage was the movie, but it wasn't.
They changed it for like South Americans.
It was different terrorism, but it was terrorism. It wasn't Muslim terrorism. Just for clarification.
The original was, but then 9/11 happened, and they
changed the plot. Right. Yeah. But when it was released, it was changed.
Too much.
Right. Well, they intentionally did that. Obviously, they made the film that way, not realizing they were complicit and compartmentalized into the CIA's plan to blow up the World Trade Center. Now, going into this a little further, on 9/11, okay, I was in the city. I was actually in Long Island. I was on my way to work when it physically happened, but that day. And then thereafter, I was living 12 miles from Ground Zero, and I could smell the burning bodies. I could smell that you'll never forget that smell, man. It was in the air. It was in the air for like a long time. And I'll never forget that smell. It reminded me of what it must have been like in the concentration camps, you know? That's what it must have smelled like all day long because they just burned so many bodies. Anyway, my point is, I'm getting off point. I was totally, like, the right word to use is mind-controlled into being petrified of Muslims. Now, about 3 blocks from where I lived on Utopia Parkway and 75th Avenue. And a few blocks from where I lived, on Casino Boulevard and around 150th Street or thereabouts, or 155th Street, something like that, there was a very well-known Muslim community. They had a lot of Muslims live there. There are a couple of Muslim stores, the halal markets and whatnot. And I remember we were just like freaking out, and they were very upset. These people were petrified living there, and we hated them.
Yeah.
And they didn't do anything.
And that's in my neighborhood.
Yes.
They have.
Let's talk about the mind control.
The bodegas, the Dunkin' Donuts, the 7-Elevens, and when that happened, it was bad. You know.
I know.
They were beating them up.
I know.
I think the cops arrested half of these 2 bodegas. Like half the people were gone the next day. So I don't know.
I know.
What you know.
But again, that was part of this whole plan. Part of this whole plan. It's such an incredible onion with so many layers. But it's peeled away when you really look at it. And this is, I know, because I was, again, so paranoid because of this happening and being afraid of Muslims and hating them. It ultimately really was one of the reasons why I left New York, because I was asleep when I moved here in 2005. But I did know that there was something bad about New York City as far as forgetting about the economy and other reasons. I had some insight into what was going on, that the housing market was a bubble. I realized that, and I took advantage of the fact that I could capitalize on my property, and I did. So I got out. That was the main reason for, like, economics. I wouldn't have to have a mortgage, so that was really my motivating factor. But what really did it was the fact that I said to myself and to my wife, and she agreed, you know, like, look, something's going to happen again, and it's going to happen here. And it's going to be another terrorist attack, and they get nuked. I want to be, like, at least a couple hours away from New York if something ever happens. It was really part of my planning to get out. So subconsciously I realized that is it very, very, unfortunately, everybody living in New York City, you guys are in the heart of wherever, if something's going to happen, unfortunately, it's going to happen.
Don't forget that the television and media and everything is constantly telling us to be afraid of the next attack too, which adds to you wanting to get out there. And trust me too, Howard. I mean, I literally for years was, when's the next attack coming? Because that's, that's
the mind control.
And if they could pull off something like that, if 19 guys with box cutters could do all that stuff, was it crazy for another attack? And a lot of us were scared, bridges, drive over the bridge. Is it going to blow up?
Absolutely. My wife wouldn't let me go over the bridge. She says, I don't want to go over bridges. Vinny, we were petrified listen, what they did on 9/11 was give 8 million Americans, because 8 million Americans living in New York, 8 million New Yorkers, okay? Because we live there. Everybody else was traumatized, but it gave those New Yorkers post-traumatic stress syndrome. Every fucking one of us. We all suffer from it. I know. And now when I learned the truth about 9/11, I was like, that's really one of the things that fires me, that they're going to just keep doing this, assholes, if you don't wake up and see that this has been designed and planned for a world government since basically 1868, like you said. No, 1868, like you said. Building up. Now we are segueing into how did this all come about. Believe it or not, 9/11, Afghanistan, Iraq, that whole criminal operation, the CIA bringing in heroin and cocaine and everything else they do, and Halliburton and all the contracts and all the oil companies and everything else and the collectivism going on there, okay? We have a factual takeover of the world that was formulated financially. We owe everybody paper that doesn't exist. We've used money as currency, leaving us with debt that doesn't exist, but they say it exists. The plan was to steal the wealth of the middle class, putting everybody into like a serfdom. And then the true aristocracy, it would be Darwin-like. The true people that can rise will, because of bloodline and because of position, and everyone else is a useless eater. So I really believe they.
So it's the rich and the poor, nothing
Right,
else.
exactly.
And the rich is going to stay in their family.
And it's so obvious that they've accomplished this because when you look from the beginning of the founding of our republic until the first 100 years, there was no inflation at all. If something cost $1 100 years ago, it was still $1 100 years later. Well, what was $1 worth 100 years ago? A lot of money. Like almost maybe like $20. I think it's maybe even more than that. I'd have to research it.
It's probably like 100.
Maybe 100. I don't know if it's quite 100, but it's a lot.
96 or 97% depreciated.
Oh, it is 97%. Yeah, so it is about $100. So $1 is worth what is 100 today. So how come? Because they've gotten us to believe the lie that this was good for us. And going from where...
That's the whole thing, like we were kind of touching on is, they explain a little bit to bring in, like, with Lincoln and Kennedy and Andrew Jackson, who was shot too, but didn't die. I mean, these were people that wanted to have the money backed not by a centralized bank or the Federal Reserve, money backed by silver or gold. And why that's so important is gold is something that never loses weight, and the diamond is not a lot of it. You can't just make it. So that's what, you had a physical, there was something tangible, something physical. So, with the Federal Reserve, we all know that there is nothing. It's just imaginary numbers and I got $1 of yours, so now I can lend out $100. It's all just fake numbers.
Yeah, but if you and I did that, Vinny, we would be arrested for counterfeiting.
Oh, yeah.
And in fact, that guy, what's his name? Nuthouse? I mean, his name is actually Nuthouse. It's scary. But he was making coins, just gold coins, and they were saying he's a counterfeiter.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, he didn't say it was currency. But, again, they're just so, it's so out of control. As it went on record the other day with the last show, when we did have Barbara Hartwell on, and she revealed so much truth about Operation Paperclip, and Nazis have been running our government, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen. If you really don't believe it, research it. It is absolutely true. And controlled opposition, Operation Paperclip, research it. And then look into the truth that they then create controlled opposition where you get your Eichmanns and you get your Mengelas and all the people that that they're chasing after, and you have Wiesenthal. Absolutely, the Nazi hunter, he hated them and went after them, and he was real. But through his own compartmentalized way, he was controlled as well, because they were leading him to places where he couldn't find who they really wanted to keep. Those that really rose to the plate.
The Apaches, the lower level ones, right?
Absolutely. That's what happened, and that's what they did, and the only Nazis that suffered were just, the lower, the greatest scientists, the greatest military and criminal minds, with the exception of those that killed themselves, of course. The underlings that they interrogated extensively during the Nuremberg trials and before. Extensively. Research that. They found the top of the top, and they gave them a pass. It's on record. It's history. But they'll never teach it to you in school, because these same criminals in the IRS, okay, and the Federal Reserve are running the CIA. Now, does that all start to make sense about the war and the CFR through the Rockefeller Foundation and all the other foundations with the big pharma fraud? It is all connected. And it is 100% accurate. What I'm saying is 100% accurate and 100% provable. It's provable. There's documented evidence of all of it. Look at the names and the people involved. I mean, if I was an owner of the Federal Reserve and I had shares in the Federal Reserve and I had shares in the IRS, and then I also funded the McGill Institute, the beginnings of the OSS transition to the CIA, and I funded that so that the CIA could do experiments on MKUltra mind control with Dr. Ewan Cameron and all of that, stuff going on in McGill Institute in Montreal. And the Tavistock Institute and the taking over and funding the music so that people get, you know, the Beatles and all this. I mean, I don't even know what you would say of me. You would say, oh my God, you're trying to control, or you do control, my God, too many things. And did I also mention that I also own Merck, most of the controlling interest in Merck and Pfizer? So you start connecting these dots, and they lead to the same goddamn place and the same people. It is the same perpetrators, and it's their progeny. It is those before them, and those that came after them, and those that will come after them. And these are our enemies. These are the ones that have hijacked our government and taken over.
Yeah, well, I mean, the system they created is, you know, it's a very smart system. I mean, it's well hidden. They're able to get away with it for so long, but hopefully, you know, that's what we're trying to do, and people like Joe Banister and others, you know, really putting themselves out there to make a difference.
Well, Joe Banister is going to be joining us in just a minute, and I just wanted to give a little bit of a shout out here to Eustace Mullins' work, because it came to, again, it's so important that you understand how these criminals have planned this. Now, we talked about 1868 and the Corporation of America, and the whole leading up, all the events leading up to 1910, Jekyll's Island and the Federal Reserve Act. Okay? But what we got to look back to is, again, the Rothschilds and the Tsar. And you got to look back into this whole truth. This is all from The World Order, which is a tremendous work that I recommend anyone read, or everyone read, by Eustace Mullins. And you can refer to it because it's one of the most documented pieces of I mean, it's an incredible book, only about 400 pages right here. But the important thing is about the Romanovs. And then basically there was a tremendous amount of hate between the Rothschilds and the Romanov family. They poisoned Alexander I in 1855, poisoned Alexander I. Other assassinations followed. They, of course, killed the Tsar.
Do you know why? Do you know why, Howard, there was the beef between them?
Yes. Because they
yeah, me too.
Yeah, no, go ahead. No, you don't. I'm not going to steal your thunder. You brought it up. I do know. Yes, it's about the something to do with blockading a port, and unless they did something. So yeah, go ahead. You go ahead. You know it.
The lightning striking the horse. Yeah,
that's right.
There was a guy with a satchel full of these papers and letters to the Illuminati and all this, and it's a true story. I mean,
it's absolutely factual.
I was literally struck by lightning, and the townspeople went and got these papers off of him and gave it to the Romanovs, I believe. Hello?
Yes, and you got to also remember.
Oh, is this Joe?
Yeah, Joe's on the line. I didn't want to break in because I didn't know if I was on hold or not.
Oh, absolutely. How are you, Joe? Joe Banister is joining us, former IRS agent. Thank you for taking your time to spend with us.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Go ahead.
So how you doing? Joe? A lot of us. I'm Vinny. I've been the one trying to get you on the show. I know you're a real busy guy. I think the main thing is a lot of us. You know, America, Freedom to Fascism, the movie by Aaron Russo, I think is how a lot of people got to know about you. That's how I got to find out about you. That was an amazing movie, and ever since I've seen that, I've been, you know, keeping an eye, looking out for your stuff, and some others trying to find out more. And like Howard said, really excited that you took some time to come on our show. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Vinny. Really a pleasure to be on your show, and I appreciate all that you guys are doing there on the East Coast and around the world, trying to wake people up and let them realize that our government isn't serving the people and hasn't been doing so for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly right. But for those out there that aren't aware, again, you and Sherry Jackson are by far the you're like the unfortunate martyrs of this criminal system that's been put in place to enslave basically the entire world. Ultimately, starting with the United States, putting us into a debt-based society where we cannot pay our bills and then we lose our property. To bring in a banking collapse that will ultimately result in a world government with a World Bank solution. Hegelian dialectic, I'm digressing, but I mean, you guys are martyrs for this. You've served, been attacked and been imprisoned, literally, and denied your basic human rights. So why don't you just give everybody out there a little overview as to how you understood and came to to find out about this fraud, and then what they did to you when you started to speak out about it.
Sure, and thank you, Howard. Basically, graduated from college way back in the late 80s, San Jose State University with a degree in accounting. And then I spent a number of years in the late 80s and early 90s in the private sector as an accountant and eventually a CPA. And then when I looked at what was the kind of work I'd be doing for another 30 or 40 years, I thought there's no way that this could be exciting enough to keep my interest. So I decided to look into a career in law enforcement, and I thought that maybe federal law enforcement would be the wiser choice because of my background in finance and accounting. So I applied to both the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the IRS Criminal Investigation Division, both agencies that would look for certified public accountants to be special agents in their agencies. My preference was with the FBI because at least until 10 or 20 years ago, the FBI had quite a good reputation with the American public, and was popular enough to have TV shows produced about them, and there weren't that many great TV shows, if any, produced about IRS agents. Nobody liked them. So my preference was the FBI, but the FBI wasn't hiring at the time that I applied.
What's up, Truth? We're live here.
Sorry, you need to mute.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it.
About the job and what about what you're going to do on a daily basis. So I decided to accept an offer from the IRS Criminal Investigation Division and began serving as a special agent for the IRS in November of 1993. I was sworn in, as is every federal government employee, because the Constitution requires that we are sworn to support and defend the Constitution. And so my swearing-in ceremony was no different. And maybe one difference was that I took that oath to support and defend the Constitution to heart. Of course, first and foremost, because you take that oath to God, and I'm not about to offend God by dishonoring a promise to Him. Of course, I've always been mindful about the commandments, try to obey the commandments as best I could, especially on not taking the Lord's name in vain, and not stealing, not helping other people to steal, not bearing false witness, on and on. So anyway, I spent about 3 years of my career at the IRS, expecting to spend a full 20-year career there. But unfortunately, about 3 years into it, I was listening to a talk radio show, and this lady, Evie Kidd, was talking about things like the income tax and the Federal Reserve and the New World Order. And, this was back in December of 1996. So I had heard some of these issues or positions now and then, but I was conditioned and trained to believe that anything that she was talking about was so-called conspiracy theory and, a bunch of cock and bull and BS, and didn't merit any time or evaluation. But she was talking on a talk radio show that was hosted by a gentleman named Jeff Metcalf, and Jeff Metcalf had always been very truthful and very forthright and upright. And he didn't seem to have an axe to grind against any particular political party. He was just supporting the Constitution. He was a former Special Forces military man. And anyway, so I thought, well, either he isn't the great guy that I thought he was, or there's something to these income tax claims that Evie Kidd is making. And I really wasn't willing to accept either one of those alternatives. I mean, Evie Kidd was basically attacking the income tax system, which I had wrapped my entire professional life around. And, I didn't want to accept that, someone like a talk show host could fool me so easily. So I set out to basically investigate these claims about the federal income tax that Evie Kidd made on the radio show back there in December of '96. So is that still fine? Everybody hanging on there? I just keep on talking?
Yeah, no, it's great.
Absolutely, we're just listening. This is amazing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. So then, throughout 1997 and throughout 1998, I continued to work as an IRS special agent. I go to work every day, and IRS special agents work a 50-hour work week. So we get an extra quarter of our pay for that privilege. You want to call it a privilege? So 50-hour work weeks. Soccer coach, all the typical things that a husband and father has to deal with. And then in addition to all that, dissecting and investigating and analyzing these claims that DV Kid made about the Federal Reserve, the federal income tax, the fact that they both came into being at the exact same time in 1913, how the monetary system and the income tax system are basically joined at the hip and in need of one another to function properly, or at least properly for the banks. So over this 1997, 1998 time period, still working every day, but I'm becoming more educated about facts that I was never taught in college. I was never taught on the CPA exam, never taught in any IRS training. Learning that, wow, there's a whole lot of substantial facts and information that no one ever taught me. They taught me about what was deductible, is a home mortgage interest payment deductible, or what's the difference between interest and dividends, but never really questioning exactly when does an American, the average American, become liable to pay the federal income tax. At what point did it actually become required to file a Form 1040, and what law exactly requires that?
Joe, I just want to interject.
We're never asked.
I just want to interject for 1 second. Absolutely interesting. Now, this is something that we constantly talk about as far as the education system. Now, again, you're an accountant, obviously well-educated. You were hired by the government, by the Internal Revenue Service as a special agent to investigate criminal activity. Interesting. And they end up attacking you for that. But my point is that this is the dumbing down, or the hiddenness, or the occult nature of basically education. Would you agree that it's not just your experience, but others, and basically it doesn't matter your field. If it was medicine, or if it was communications, because I went to film school, and music, even music. I was told that 440 was standard tuning when I was in college for it was just always that way. Not that the Rockefeller Foundation instituted it in 1938. So was that a pretty good statement? Do you think that all of this information is intentionally hidden so that they can dumb down the people, and those that they like, and the ones that are smarter than others and can rise up, they give them the opportunity to carry this cross, and if you don't carry that cross for evil, they'll crucify you. What's your thoughts?
I absolutely concur and agree. And this is part of the journey that I'm sure you all have been on for quite some time. How deep does the rabbit hole go? But you do discover that all certainly a lot of the major newspapers, the TV news organs, the publishing companies for casual reading versus even textbooks for high school, grammar schools, colleges. You find that this cabal, really, I should say, there's this control that's exercised over all of those institutions, and it's incredible how over a period of time, because it is an incremental process, but how the floor planning and over decades, realizing that at some point down the road, they would exactly be able to dumb down the population. And of course, I have to interject right here, and I'm sure you guys would agree, thankfully they haven't succeeded to the extent that they want to. Otherwise, younger guys like you wouldn't even be around, and we wouldn't have the Ron Paul Revolution, and we wouldn't have a prayer. But thankfully, despite all of this very controlled environment to keep the truth from being learned by people, we still, the truth still survives. And of course, being a Christian, I know that's a certainty. The truth will always survive, and it is up to us to not so much be concerned with our physical well-being as our spiritual well-being, and doing the right thing, even when it hurts, and of course being a good example to others.
Well, I couldn't agree more than doing the right thing, even if it hurts, and even if it's something that you really wish you didn't. You have to always, you got to walk the walk and talk the talk. If it's in my opinion. So we have to fight evil wherever it exists, and do whatever we can to stop it. And this is a tremendous evil. For what you were just talking about, and then I'm going to let you go on because it's amazing just to listen to you, and I really don't want to interrupt on all of the stuff you have to say, but Rita Zelvier, I keep talking about these people. It's a holding company that was put together in 2003 that combines all of these things we're talking about. They own Hardcore Books, they own Variety Magazine, they own Cell and Lancet magazine. They own all of these, and it's like they're so right in your face with the fact that these are all controlling aspects. They own Comcast Cable. They own, I can go on and on. They had 15,000 magazines they own across the world. They set the trends, and it's Reed Zelvier. And they also own LexisNexis, the data mining company that the CIA and the FBI use. And you might even know LexisNexis. I'm sure you heard of them, Joe. So this is
I used to use it.
Of course, I know. So my research has found that it's that it's so in your face and it's owned by the Anglo and Dutch, the English and Dutch arm of the New World Order. So I'm thinking, the royal, basically the cousins probably have controlling interest. Queen Beatrice and Queen Elizabeth, through their fronts and all that other stuff. But I mean, I've really been digging into this company, and I did a couple of reviews on it, a couple of pieces on it, and I'm trying to just get everybody to look at it, because when you see it, then you'll know it's just unbelievable propaganda. Now it's interesting, it's all propaganda, what they own. They don't really own any banks. It's interestingly enough, right?
Well, Howard,
so, yeah.
Let's let Joe finish that story, because it's really a great story. Let's get him to finish, and I want him to really explain what happened with him when he questioned the IRS and everything.
Oh, again, I just wanted to go on. I'm just mentioning it for the listeners. I'm sorry. I let him finish everything. I want to hear again, like we preambled. I just had to put that out there because I just keep crushing them, because I called up on Alex Jones and I said Rita Zelvier, and he was like, oh, Rita Zelvier, and he just like, I mean, why don't you talk about Rita Zelvier, Alex Jones? Anyway, go on.
Well, Joe, I watched one of the video. I think you made it. It was with that guy Paymon, and for people who don't know, Joe's like such a very nice, soft-spoken guy. But you were very funny, and it's an amazing story. And I just want all listeners and everybody who maybe never heard it to hear your whole story. And so if you could just go back and finish up about after talking to Dee Dee in a couple of years of research and what you found out and what happened.
Okay. Well, let's see. I think I kind of left off that there was this time period throughout 1997, 1998, about two and a half years after that initial hearing her on the radio. And I found that, she offered these two little booklets during her radio show presentation, and she charged like $1 or $2 a piece, so it's not like she was making any money off of them. One was called Why a Bankrupt America, and the other booklet was called Blind Loyalty. And in those booklets, she went into much more detail about, the income tax system, the history of it, how it has come to be what we know today, the Federal Reserve, the monetary system, Alan Greenspan, and how he wrote in books, back in the 60s about how, the dirty little secret about paper money, and just an amazing history that, again, most of us aren't privy to when we're going through our educational process. So then from those booklets, I basically was able to springboard into even deeper research. And, I'm sure you don't have to be a criminal investigator to kind of know how it works. I'm sure you guys have done it with your own research, but you basically you follow leads. You set aside those leads that don't look like they may not, maybe we'll put those off and follow them up later. But hey, there's these 3, 4, or 5 leads that these are the hot potatoes. These are the ones to go follow. And so, of course, the income tax issue was my number one hot potato because I was going to work every day, and not me personally putting people in prison every day, but certainly investigating various people in order to come to that point down the road. And, of course, the whole agency was doing that. So I felt that it was, I had a moral duty, an ethical duty, basically a legal, constitutional duty to determine who's telling the truth here. Is it Evie Kid and her, the IRS claims that she's just some kooky tax protester? Or is it the IRS and that they are actually lying to the American people, violating their rights and stealing their property? I mean, I've got to find out which it is. If anything, I have a duty to do it. I mean, my parents didn't raise me to steal from people or help others steal from people, or as I said earlier, bear false witness, to be a liar. Not supposed to do those kinds of things. Mom and Dad wouldn't like it, but neither would the government. That's why I took this oath. And so basically, after this 2-year period of evenings, weekends, even some vacation days, going down to the county law library, going into the internal IRS library, where they have quite a treasure trove of documents that are basically publicly available, but just much more difficult to get your hands on. A lot of internal IRS literature, the Internal Revenue Manual, the Internal Revenue Code, and the Code of Federal Regulations, court cases. And after this 2-year period, of course, I began the period believing that, hey, this couldn't possibly be true. Possibly there was some wishful thinking there, possibly even some, ego, like, well, how could I have been fooled by this kind of stuff? But over this 2-year period, seeing fact after fact after fact after piece of evidence after, incontrovertible evidence, I had to at least preliminarily conclude that there was, some colorable evidence here that the government, the IRS, was knowingly lying to the American people about their income tax obligations, and then with that lie as a cover, stealing their paychecks, stealing a part of their paychecks, stealing their bank accounts, stealing their property, based on assessments that were not true, or at least not lawful. They weren't. The assessments weren't arrived at by going by the law passed by Congress and signed by the president. So after the end of this 2-year period, I felt that, what do I do now? I mean, I didn't expect to arrive at this juncture where I see as, my very employer, the very agency that I work for, is complicit in some bad action, some bad conduct. And so I had to look at the agency's policies. I had to think about my oaths to support and defend the Constitution, my ethics as a certified public accountant, and the answer came back loud and clear in my conscience, which was, Joe, you've got to speak up. I mean, even the IRS commissioner sent a memorandum around to all, 100,000 IRS employees saying that if you encounter any fraud, waste, or abuse, that you need to report it. So everything was telling me, Joe, you got to speak up. And so that's exactly what I did in February of 1999, about 2.5 years after I began my fact-finding mission. And the bottom line was I submitted a report that was about 95 pages long, and most of the report is available for free at either freedomabovefortune.com or agentfortruth.com. So I basically put together some of the highlights of the information that I had accumulated, and I didn't create anything new. I simply was out to investigate and confirm, corroborate that evidence that I was encountering was solid. It was real. And so this report was an attempt to at least give a sampling of some of these highlights of the truth. So I presented this report to my immediate supervisors at the IRS, and I made a request with the report that that they would review it and, give me back some feedback, basically. But I did also indicate in my letter that if they could not help me to find the error of my analysis, if there was any error in my analysis, that I'd be forced to resign because I couldn't serve two masters. I had taken an oath to support and defend the Constitution, and I was finding evidence indicating that I couldn't continue to abide by that oath knowing what I knew, or, at least if they couldn't correct my understanding. And so basically, they came back to me, and my bosses at the IRS, and said, we're not going to respond to your inquiries, we're not going to answer your questions, and we will provide you with the paperwork necessary to tender your resignation. And they immediately sent me home on administrative leave. They took away my office, key card, my firearm. They didn't take my badge, but they basically took everything else except my pager. And they said that, you're supposed to be on call for the next week, and then report back to us in a week and tell us, what your decision is. So it's still going, or should I take a breath and have you guys jump in?
Well, go ahead, Vin. I could definitely, I'm just being patient. I could talk a lot about this. This is unbelievable. So the criminal organization that hired you to investigate fraud and all, and basically to do your job, you do your job, and then they tell you must resign. That's just hot shit.
It was quite ironic, actually, that I am a criminal investigator, a fraud expert, and I'm reporting the possibility of the existence of fraud to a bunch of other special agents. Okay, they may be in management, but they're nevertheless, they took the same oath to support and defend the Constitution that I did. Many of them were, I've always been born and raised in a Roman Catholic. There were Catholics there that are supposed to be, abiding by their faith and being, honorable people. And I thought, well, they may not like my presentation, they may feel uncomfortable, but I feel uncomfortable. Hey, let's all feel uncomfortable together. But we have a duty here. We have a job to do. And so the response, unfortunately, was, hey, hit the road, don't let the door hit you on your way out. Come back in a week and tell us what you want to do. So I had a week to think about it, and of course have my wife and my children questioning why this job that I wanted so bad, and was willing to take a $20,000 or $30,000 pay cut, go off to Glencoe, Georgia for 16 weeks of training, leaving my wife with a colicky, my youngest son who's now almost 21. A lot of sacrifice that went into that job, and they invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in training in me. I was told by many in the service that I was management material. I was the asset forfeiture coordinator for the Central California District. I was a firearms coordinator. I was assigned to be like the chairperson of the Central California Organized Crime and Drug Enforcement Task Force. So I wasn't a slug. I was a hard worker. Everybody respected me. But then when I start to ask questions about whether or not laws are being broken and people's rights are being violated, they show me the door.
Well, of course,
You really should be applauded for that, Joe.
Definitely.
Because, there's a lot of people that probably are in your position that just won't do it, won't go against it, and it's not just IRS agents, it's police officers or military or anybody who just takes orders for a paycheck, and that's why you really should be applauded, and it's really a beautiful thing what you did, and that's why I think me and so many people respect you so much. Can we talk then, I guess, should we take it what happens after? I guess, like you said, they gave you the week, you went back. I thought it was real funny, and again, how classy, I know the story you told, you went and you waxed your desk off, you did everything, real professional guy. Can we, now maybe we could get into what's happened since you stepped down, and maybe you could explain like what happened with Aaron Russo and how that came about, because that's, a very popular movie. I was kind of, curious myself, how that came about. Did Aaron Russo come to you, and if you could say anything about that.
Sure. Well, just to maybe do a real brief summary in terms of that period from 1999 when I resigned until, I guess Aaron's movie came out in 2006. But in a nutshell, after I left the IRS, because you've seen the picture, this gun and badge guy from the IRS, everybody thinks that I know everything there is to know about tax law. And so I would get calls from people with IRS problems. And, frankly, once I left the IRS, the place kind of gave me the willies, and I didn't really want to go anywhere near the place. But there were people that, had really serious problems, and so I would occasionally help them. Well, the IRS didn't like that at all because, of course, I would dig into their case, and I would point out the areas where it looked like fraudulent assessments and fraudulent conduct on the part of the IRS, not like your typical CPA would do, who would just tell the client, roll over, get your checkbook out, write a check. So they didn't like that. And then there was also not very much mainstream media exposure, but there was enough that I think really tipped the scales against me to where the IRS realized we need to go after this guy, discredit him, silence him, and get rid of him. Maybe we can't kill him, but we'll make it so that nobody wants to listen to him. And so what they did was, well, there's a bunch of stuff that they did, but the biggest, most notorious, biggest publicity generated was that I was indicted in November of 2004 for 4 counts, 4 felony counts, 3 counts of preparing a false federal income tax return, and 1 count of conspiracy to defraud the United States of America. And basically, the allegation was that with a client, one of my clients, we attempted to seek a refund of income taxes that my client had already paid. And believe it or not, the IRS has always publicly stated that, hey, if you have a problem with the income tax, pay it first, and then ask for it back, or sue for it back, and then we'll dance, we'll argue, and somebody will win and somebody will lose. Well, that's exactly what we did, but yet the IRS accused me and the client of basically filing a false refund claim. But the reason that the client hired me in the first place is that he wanted someone who knew the IRS rule book and would ensure that step by step we would follow, each provision exactly, dot all the I's and cross all the T's, and that's exactly what we did. So anyway, but the government, the DOJ and the IRS decided they were going to prosecute me and, claim before a jury that we were a couple of scoundrels who were trying to get money out of the government, and it just totally blew up in their face. No surprise to me because I knew that my conduct was sterling from the get-go. I would never do anything wrong purposely, let alone, violate these tax laws. So the trial occurred, I was indicted in November 2004. The trial occurred in June of 2005. And thankfully, I know we all complain about the rights that are being severely curtailed and ignored, but we still do have a few, and one of them, of course, is the right to a jury trial and the right to confront your accusers, at least when you're accused criminally. And so I was able to have a jury of 12 of my peers evaluate my conduct, and they came back with not guilty verdicts on all counts.
Nice.
And that, again, no surprise to me because my conduct was, I done nothing wrong. Thankfully, my attorneys were sharp enough to box the judge into obeying the law because, as you probably heard and you even saw in Aaron's movie, American Freedom to Fascism, that there's plenty of evidence of judges basically tag teaming with the prosecution. And so you basically have 2 prosecutors, one that's up there on the bench and the other one, to your side. So thankfully, this judge was fair. I don't think he really enjoyed being fair, but he kind of held his feet to the fire, and I was acquitted of all charges. Well, around that time, when I was being I can't remember if it was when I was being prosecuted. It might have been prior to that Aaron Russo introduced himself to me at an event in Washington, D.C., and he basically treated me to breakfast and said, hey, and I'd never met him before. I'd heard his name, but I really didn't know anything about him. And he told me later that his purpose for this breakfast meeting was to just really, kind of poke at me and see if I was real or I was just some kind of a phony. And, as history will show, I guess, he saw me to be real and sincere. And so he began to tell me about this movie, this documentary idea that he had. And he asked me to not only be interviewed for the documentary, but to actually help him behind the scenes to line up provocative interviewees who would actually tell the story, who would tell the tale of what a scam this income tax system is. And so I was totally happy to do that. I mean, it was certainly a challenge at the time because he didn't say, hey, Joe, I've got this $1 million deal for you, that Glenn Beck would get. There was no offer of $1,000 or $1 million or even $10. It was like, hey, do you want to help me? So,
Understood.
It was a labor of love, and I was very gratified to be able to help, and I lined up
Sidney Cohen
that you see in that movie. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sidney Cohen, right? Isn't that the guy? What was his name? Sheldon Cohen, or what's the guy's name at the IRS?
Actually,
I mean,
no, Aaron
at the Fed.
For getting Sheldon Cohen.
Sheldon, yeah.
Yeah, Sheldon Cohen. He was a former IRS commissioner.
Right.
But I can't take any credit for that one. But some of the other interviewers, like if you remember Marcy Brooks, the
Yep.
juror, who talked about jury duty and about that, that was one that I arranged. Franklin Sanders, Peter Gibbons, Tom Selgus. Anyway, just, kind of behind the scenes, giving him footage from my former IRS days and just trying my best to give him, information, video.
Hello? You there? Did we lose you?
Amazing.
Oh.
And he put together an incredible film, and I don't think any of us who were involved really knew how that film would get legs and how many people would see it. I can't tell you how many people I meet, even today, that say it was America Freedom to Fascism that woke me up.
It did. It literally woke me up. That's the film that woke me up in 2007. That's when it started the whole process. Yeah, it's really true.
Me, it was actually, I was at a Tea Party rally, trying to do political stuff, and I was wearing actually InfoWars stuff, Alex Jones stuff, and some guy walked up to me and he said, he had a DVD in his hand, and he was like, hey, did you see the new Aaron Russo Freedom to Fascism movie? And I was like, no, I heard of it, I didn't get to watch it yet, and the guy handed it to me, and that was the first time I got to see it. It really is a great movie. A lot of people try to, not to knock anybody, it's great, anything that we could do, but the fact that you have like a Hollywood guy, a guy who's made Trading Places, big time guy, to really make a great movie, not just, something someone put together in their room, or, a real powerful movie, and that's what's so great about it. To give a movie to people who don't know nothing, it's a lot harder to give them a little movie. That's like a high production, that's why it's so great, that movie, to me, and why, I guess so many people know it. It's just well put together. We need more of that.
He cut that movie
in Hollywood.
Well, he cut that movie himself. He was sick. He was dying when he made that film, and he cut it. He cut the movie himself. So he had very little, like assistance other than a couple of hands. Isn't that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he did a very hands-on project, and I remember coming down at least 2 occasions down to Beverly Hills, and actually saw him in the studio, editing, doing the audio and video editing. And he's funny because how you comment that he's the real deal, like the typical Hollywood producer. He called me honey and sweetheart, and he's just a very affectionate man, and yet no man ever called me honey. But when Aaron calls you honey, you don't you're actually quite thrilled. But he took me around in his convertible Porsche, you know, and he took me to lunch, and he goes, "Well, there's Robin Williams' agent, you know," and it was kind of amazing. That's why I said, you know, he'd have to pay me a dime. Just the experience was astounding. But I always thought, I don't think I've ever told anybody that, but that Aaron, I'd call him on the phone, you know, or he'd call me, and, "How you doing, honey?" But, you know, he's the affectionate Aaron Russo way.
Wow. All right. Let's see. Well, should we talk? Can we maybe get into some of the technical terms? Maybe like, can we talk? Like before you came on, we spent the beginning a little bit, Joe, and I was talking about a couple of amendments. Like the one is the Fifth Amendment, which says, you know, where you don't have to incriminate yourself. What would you say, like, the Fifth Amendment means to the IRS? Like, you know, does it have any weight? Is that something that could be used to say, hey, I don't want to give you any information because I could incriminate myself?
Well, absolutely. It was an interesting enlightenment process for me, and I think it was interesting the way, you know, for those that believe in providence, that being a criminal investigator, of course, we were well trained that we had to read someone their, you know, Miranda rights before we questioned them, and they didn't have any obligation to speak to us. Well, the reason they had no obligation was because of the Fifth Amendment. We could not put our hands around their neck and squeeze until they talked to us. If they said they didn't want to talk, that was it. We had to leave. So in that sense, if an IRS agent comes to try to speak to you at your doorway or finds you at work, you absolutely still have a pretty sturdy Fifth Amendment right to just say, you know, politely, "I'm sorry, I don't want to talk to you," or "Here's my attorney's card, call him." You know, you don't have to talk to anybody. And I think too many people don't realize that they don't have any obligation to talk to an agent. One of the problems that you can run into is it's your word against theirs, okay? And if they don't understand what you're saying, and they record something erroneously, in other words, they don't get down exactly what you said, well, too bad, so sad for you, okay? Because they're going to testify, "Oh, this is what Vinny told me. This is what Joe told me."
Joe, wouldn't you admit, though?
You didn't say anything like that.
Right.
Same thing with the police. You know, the police, you know why I pulled you over. And that's the whole thing. And the minute you say yes, it's sort of like that. You start talking and you give up the jurisdiction. And again, police, IRS, same thing, right? Don't have to incriminate myself. Fifth Amendment.
Absolutely. I mean, rarely is it beneficial to speak when you're being questioned or even confronted.
Joe,
very limited circumstances, but the general rule of thumb, don't talk. You're going to be much better off in the long run.
That's not going to, but you see, the funny thing is that you have, like, the society has been trained, again, you know, programmed or conditioned with these newfangled gadgets and all this, like, you know, texting and instant messaging and Skyping and all this stuff, and we're so, like, chatty, giving away all our information all over the place. So it's a lax, again, the people are just like, they just give up their rights. Training them to just keep talking, you know, it's okay, you know, and that's it. I mean, look at the society. People, "Oh, please, officer, you know, what can we do? And they're like always talking, you know, can you overlook it? I mean, these are bad things to say to a cop, you know, right? Wouldn't you agree? I mean, you know.
It's not, as I'm sure you guys have spoken many times on your show, it's not just some coincidence. I mean, there's an orchestrated effort. They're certainly patient, but there's an orchestrated effort to condition people to be accepting of tyranny. And, of course, there's plenty of prior tyrants and their underlings to help it along. In fact, it was just recently that I remember Alex Jones talking about the former head of the East German Stasi is actually a consultant to the U.S. government. I mean, isn't that wonderful? Wow.
That is true, yes. No, I mean, it's unbelievable. The Nazis have, taken over our country.
Well, it's a little different. I wanted to go to another amendment, if you don't mind, Joe, is the 16th Amendment I see a lot on. I've seen some things, me and Howard talking about this before, man, seen things, 3 states, 5 states, and then I've seen some that said no states. Either way, there was never enough states to be ratified this amendment. Is that true? And do you know if it was 0 states or whatever it was that voted on it?
Yeah, it was basically 0. There's a gentleman named Bill Benson, and he wrote a book called The Law That Never Was. And I think you see that there's a website called thelawthatneverwas.com, and also 16th Amendment spelled out, I think, .com. That might be where people can get more information. But basically, the reason Bill Benson asserts that not a single state ratified the 16th Amendment is that there's a variety of reasons. In other words, some states, well, one state in particular, Kentucky, actually voted to reject the 16th Amendment. And so when you go and look at the Kentucky records, it shows a rejection. But when you go to the federal government, it shows acceptance and the confirmation.
Fraud.
Some of the other states changed the wording of the 16th Amendment so that the wording that the state ratified was different than the actual wording of the 16th Amendment. So they ratified a group of words that wasn't the 16th Amendment.
Yeah, typical
so
fraud.
That's the reason you probably heard that no state ever ratified it, but some of the reasons are much more egregious than others. You know, like rejecting it outright, and that's obviously more egregious than changing a letter or a word.
Mm-hmm. Well, because whenever I talk to, I mentioned again earlier, you didn't get to hear probably, but my sister's a big-time accountant, my aunt's an accountant for the Bronx Zoo, and whenever I've tried to talk to accountants about this, and I try to say, where's the law, they say the 16th Amendment is what everybody tells me.
Well, yeah, that's very much erroneous. But, you know, the IRS will say that, too, and that's probably why the average accountant will simply point to the 16th Amendment as a carte blanche reason that everything under the sun is taxable. But, in fact, the Supreme Court has ruled over and over again that the 16th Amendment did not expand any federal taxing power. In fact, in Aaron's movie, attorney Peter Gibbons points that out. You may remember that scene where Peter said, so they didn't have the authority before the 16th Amendment, so they didn't have it after either.
Yeah. Yeah. Hello?
I'm still here, but I'm hearing like a phone.
Somebody calling in.
Is Howard, you there, Howard? Well,
I'm here, man.
Okay.
I don't know. Somebody called in and they dropped out. Wait, I know we got another caller. We got a bunch of people.
Hey, guys. How you doing? Yeah, who's this?
Howard.
Oh, Alex.
Hey, Alex, how are you?
All right. Hey, Joe, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm all right. I just got a quick question for you. I'm watching it live right now, but the feed keeps coming in and out. So I want to just ask a quick question. I know that I watched the film. I've seen seen some of your talks and stuff. I know that you think that you did not have to. They didn't really break your chops about not filing for the federal income tax. Now, there was a rumor. I don't know if maybe you can clarify for it that you ended up getting into some kind of trouble. They did come after you again.
Since there have been no criminal, they only went after me criminally once, and that was the 2005 trial. But certainly since then, the IRS has been accusing me of promoting abusive tax shelters and auditing me, and I certainly have not. I still get plenty of IRS hate mail, no doubt about it. But in terms of any kind of criminal, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, so they haven't actually done anything criminal-wise for you not filing for federal income? No, and they, interestingly enough, when they prosecuted me in 2005, they didn't address my personal circumstances at all. Apparently their strategy was to try to join me with the client in all of the tax money that they were fighting about,
and they didn't want to address, my own beliefs about the income tax, and they seem to want to avoid that like the plague. And so far, that's continued to be the case. And here we are in 2012. I was acquitted in 2005, and I just don't, who knows what the future will hold. I mean, I'm certainly ready. If they're ready to go dance again, I'm ready too, but who knows?
Well, I'm just wondering because I myself, it's not a conspiracy. I mean, it is conspiracy by definition, but it's not no taboo tinfoil hat theory. There is no law that requires anybody to pay or file any kind of income tax on their labor. And, but I know that they are kicking people's doors down, waving guns, still arresting people, and still, taking advantage of people who don't have the money to defend themselves or even the knowledge. So I'm wondering maybe for those people who are also interested in opting out of this illegal system, this corrupt system, I mean, what would be a good pointer if you could give one? I don't know if you want to, but how to go along in trying to get out of paying an unconstitutional tax.
Well, first off, I'd say I'm glad you're bringing this up because I think it's a point that isn't brought up often enough. It's a rigged game. I mean, really rigged. And
Absolutely.
So the average person that starts to, how should we say this, bristle, at the IRS's demand, starts to resist. The IRS has a, well-oiled machine to grind you to a pulp. And so I really discourage people from, until they've really spent a few years really educating themselves, and even educating themselves about, not only can the IRS try to make your life miserable, but, for those of you that live in New York, fortunately I'm in Nevada, they don't have a state income tax, but many states do. And it's typical that the federal government and the state government will do like a big-time wrestling tag team match, and they'll tag team and both grind on you. So I really discourage people from, changing their lifestyle at all until they spend a few years educating themselves. I mean, as I said earlier, I was a certified public accountant and an IRS criminal investigator, and it still took me 2.5 years of evenings and weekends and research before I was certain that I was going to confront my supervisors. So I encourage, you can still educate yourself for free, largely for free, and you're not going to run into any IRS trouble by educating yourself. They don't turn your education into action until you're absolutely certain, and that could take a few years, if ever.
You don't want to just sit there saying, hey, I'm not going to pay taxes and I don't know a damn thing about what I'm doing. You want to definitely educate yourself.
That's it, and it's a very good plan. I really appreciate you getting, pitching me that ball that I could hit it, because it's an important consideration. People are frustrated.
Absolutely.
I don't blame them one bit. But
my mother, we're all from New York originally. I moved to Connecticut recently, but my mother, she's an administrator for BOCES in New York, the school district, and I mean she makes 6 figures, but they're taking at least $30-40 a year in labor on unconstitutional taxes. And when I tell my mother this, she's like, "What am I going to do?" And I'm like, educate yourself, Mom. Do this, do that. Look into this. But just to get reamed, I hate living my life knowing that I'm being taken advantage of. It just sucks. Living a lie basically, and I just.
Well, speaking about a lie, Alec, or maybe some of the listeners are not aware, or that in 1981, shortly before I think he was, they tried to shoot Reagan. Well, they did shoot him. Before they tried to kill him. He was experimenting with the idea of where does all the money from the IRS go, and he created something called the Grace Commission.
Yes.
And they found by 1984, they found that every single dollar that the IRS collects goes to the they're not Federal Reserve, the international bankers. It goes to pay interest on the bankruptcy from 1933, which has just been, we just got out of that. Joe, I just wanted to bring this into Give me your insight into the fact that the Federal Reserve is going to end on 12/21/2012. It has a, I don't know much. The charter is due to expire on that date, and that.
Sorry. I've heard something about that, but I really don't know too much about it. I guess it wouldn't surprise me that there's some kind of a sunset provision. Like say the assault weapons ban was a sunset after 10 years, and thankfully, there's so many. There were too bad my laws don't have sunset provisions, but apparently that could be the case. Obviously they're not going to go away, but they may change their spots. The IRS has changed its name a number of times, and maybe the Federal Reserve will realize that nobody believes they're federal anymore, and they're going to have to change their name to something else.
But again, that's the whole thing. The whole thing's a fraud from beginning to end. So we have to, alert the people to this. I mean, come on, this is it's just blatant fraud. And they take people's properties, they ruin your lives. It's like they're basically, it's like they want to bring everybody into this Soviet-style New World Order. The fascist, communist, socialist, whatever you want to call it. Their intention, and they've been doing it. They've been doing it.
Can I say one quick thing too? About I want to go back to the point of educating yourself before taking that step into trying to opt out of the federal income tax and fighting the IRS, basically. That other gentleman, he was an older gentleman. He was in Freedom and Fascism also, Aaron Russo's film, and he was really good. But they actually did sentence him to like 13 years in prison or something. The judge didn't want to hear it. Is it Irwin you're talking about? Yeah, Irwin.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was really educated on the fact too, and they still sent him to prison. So, like you said, it's a rigged game. Even if you're innocent, even if they know you're right, they're gonna still, if you're messing with the wrong people, the wrong state or anything, I think they're just gonna lock you up and make an example out of you, like Irwin. I don't know if you want to comment on that or anything, but the guy knew what he was doing, and I really respected him, and it's a shame. And even the judge who was presiding over his case was like, because he kept trying to bring up the fact that after the 16th Amendment, there was no new taxation of powers of taxation. So they never had the power to tax our labor. And I mean, but the judge didn't want to hear Supreme Court. But the Supreme Court, obviously, they have to be in compliance, with the smaller courts and vice versa. So I just, it's like you said, it's a rigged game no matter what, and I'm really happy for you, Mr. Banister, that, that they haven't really, done you in or anything like that. I'm really glad for you, and I hope that, it remains that way. But for someone like Irwin, that's a life sentence for that poor man,
Yeah, and he, I am fortunate. I guess some people out there, they think that somehow I'm still working for the government, and that's how I got through being acquitted. But they really aren't paying attention to the facts, because there's plenty of people you can talk to find. I wouldn't wish that experience on my worst enemy. And of course, but I came out of it with a little bit of justice, thankfully. But you're right, Irwin. He spent so many decades educating people about what the truth was. I learned a lot from him, and of course, his son Peter Schiff is well known as a financial consultant, a hard, real money guy. So it's a travesty, but that's what I said.
Yeah, it's like Peter Schiff.
Irwin's in prison. I think what I advocate the most is many of us still receive those notices in the mail for jury duty. Okay, and that's the place we have to educate the jury pool. We have to infect the jury pool with the truth, and I think that. Just like slavery, part of the reason that slavery went away finally is that when the abolitionists and people who were helping the slaves were getting acquitted over and over again, they couldn't get a conviction, then there was no more, they didn't have that hammer of putting people in prison for trying to put an end to slavery. And the same thing will happen with this income tax system. So if you can invest, or you can focus your frustration on educating people, and frankly, if it wasn't for D.V. Kidd, for no pay, going there on the radio and I was listening that day, and she didn't know that I was listening. She couldn't have known. And so that's why what you guys are doing here today, and what you do on your radio show is so important. You never know how many IRS agents and government officials are out there listening. If you're going to affect it and make a big difference.
That's what we're hoping to do. But you mentioned Peter Schiff. He ran for Senate here in Connecticut. He lost. I'm just like, I like what he says, but I have to be afraid of him because it's Schiff. He literally is Schiff. His family, his grandfather is original shareholder of the Federal Reserve and the IRS. You're aware of that, right?
Really?
You didn't know that, did you?
Yeah, the Schiff family.
Yeah, he is of that family.
I knew it was the Schiff family. There was a Schiff family that was involved in that. I didn't know that they were the same family.
Oh yes, it is absolutely bloodline, same family, no doubt. So I have a lot of, he talks a lot. Again, good talk, could be a COINTELPRO type thing. I don't know. I worry about him because he talks everything that's right, but after all, his family is literally, his grandfather was Jacob Schiff, one of the original founding shareholders of the Federal Reserve with John D. Rockefeller, and also Kuhn Loeb and those guys. And
well, I guess my only comeback would be that and of course everybody should watch out. You never know who you can trust, and
just be cautious. You never know who you can trust.
Enough news that they can trust me, but the fact is, there are people that have woken up and they are speaking up. And I hope that, in the long run, people will realize that I was just somebody that didn't know better. And frankly, if I didn't know better, I wouldn't have even looked at the IRS to get that credibility that I need now to tell people the truth and ring the alarm bell. So maybe, if those the same Schiff family that's finally, doing some good when their forebears weren't doing so good.
I only can pray that that's true. Yeah, I hope so. Obviously he says the right things. It's just, everybody just beware of these people. They're wolves in sheep's clothing sometimes. Not all the time, but you never know who can stab you in the back.
I'll add something funny. The New York Yankees, their pitching coach's last name is Rothschild. So even in baseball, I just look at a pitching coach. So I can understand what you're saying with the name stuff. But I just wanted to add, throw one more thing in. Since we're talking about the rights and educating, I wanted to have you take Joe on. Besides the IRS, what about the whole sovereign? Everything going on about sovereignty. I think that's another big thing that goes hand in hand with the IRS. And again, people shouldn't just tomorrow say, "Hey, I don't need a driver's license" and all these things. But it's like the IRS, it takes time to learn. But I just want to know what your take is on the sovereigns, and do you look into anything like that, or is the IRS just enough for you right now? Just anything you tell me about the sovereigns or about you becoming them.
Well, basically, I of course don't like at all that the just like people who learn about the income tax or about the 9/11, inconsistencies. You're demonized so that no one will listen to you. And I think the same thing goes for the so-called sovereign movement. There's a reason why that term sovereignty, even exists. It has to do with, do you own your own labor? Do you own your own existence? Or does someone else own it? And so, the concept I certainly support. I think that, unfortunately, a certain number of people use it as kind of a silver bullet. They just decide one day, I'm sovereign. And so then they go driving around with no license plates and no driver's license. And then they wonder why their life goes into a tailspin. And I support the belief that, hey, I have certain rights. They're God-given. Nobody has the right to take them from me. But you also have to realize that you're dealing with a public that's largely uneducated and unknowing about any of this stuff.
Yeah.
And so if you go into it... Go ahead.
Hello? Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm just saying you have to deal with the public and the tyranny on the other side,
Right. And so it's difficult. Basically what I'm saying, I'm trying to consolidate it down into to pick your battles. And I know I was even tempted early on to like, well, hey, there's this problem, and there's this problem, and there's that problem. But you find that if you take on too many problems all at once, it's overwhelming, and it's really better, of course, in the Bible it talks about prudence, to be a prudent man with a prudent woman. And so I say that, prudence is a very good virtue, to try to slow it down, educate yourself, take your time, and pray about it, and think about how can I, with this knowledge, make a difference for the better, rather than just getting all upset and then just going headlong into it and crashing and burning.
Yes. Yeah,
so I think
I agree.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. But yeah, that's what I was saying. I mean, same way I feel with you. It's, if you don't know a lot, yeah, you're going to get in trouble, and like you were saying. So, all right, I was just wondering if you would, if you were working with anybody or getting into that. But I get what you're saying. It's, pick your battles. The battle you have is big enough. You don't need any more. Let's see. I got one more question I had written down here was about the 14th Amendment. Is that where basically we lost it becomes the corporation? Is that what happened in like 1868, where basically that's where America becomes the corporation? Is that something you found in your research or something different?
Frankly, I don't have a lot to say on the whole 14th Amendment issue. My understanding, in just a general sense, is that the federal rights, the Bill of Rights, at least the 3rd through 10th, were incorporated into the states. In other words, they couldn't just say it was a federal matter. But I really don't know much more about that to talk to people about, other than to say that, if you just go around telling society and law enforcement that you're not a 14th Amendment citizen, leave me alone, they're not going to listen to you. And it doesn't have much teeth, so I don't mean to demean that. It's good to educate yourself about the history of the 14th Amendment and what it signifies, what the impact of it is. But there are these movements that say, hey, just tell them that you're not a 14th Amendment citizen and they'll leave you alone. I don't see that happening very often. So be careful of these silver bullet kind of things, and especially be careful if somebody says, hey, I got this 14th Amendment seminar, and it only costs $1,000, and once you go to this, you're going to be free. Well, you should run for the hills if you ever have somebody try to sell you on that.
Luckily, I haven't heard that one yet. All right, so, sorry, one more thing is, I thought it was really important. I wrote this down while you were talking because I wanted to bring it back up. Is when you were talking about how serious you take the oath. And I think this is really something important I wanted to bring back that you said, because it's not just you, too. Again, military, police, a lot of people, you take oaths, you swear, again, on the Bible to God, and you're also taking an oath to withhold the Constitution. And it was so great to listen to you and how much it meant to you. And like I told you, I watched your first interview with Raymond back in 99 or 2000 when you did that, and you were talking about it, and I just feel like that's something that we should push too, that there's a lot of people that take an oath to the Constitution and nobody's standing up for it. And that's another thing that I feel you should be applauded for so much, and I just wanted to bring it back up, the whole thing about taking an oath. And if you could just say it again, like how much that meant to you, and
Thank you. Well, I completely agree, and it's an excellent point. It's something that it's a good reminder to put out there when you encounter not only police officers or federal agents carrying guns and badges and stuff, but every IRS employee, every HUD employee, every Department of Energy employee, they all take an oath to support and defend the Constitution. The Constitution requires it, and they haven't done away with it yet. So it's a critical issue. And I mean, really, people just they don't realize that, okay, now what was at the end of that oath you took? So help me God. You know, do you not believe in God? Did you not believe in God when you took the oath, or did you stop believing in God after you took the oath? And get them in a situation where they can't, either way, they don't want to answer the question. Because they'll say, well, yeah, I believe in God. Well, then if you believe in God, then why would you take an oath to support and defend something and swear to him that you do that, and yet you're not doing it?
Yeah.
So I think that is a very good point. I think that, you know, federal or state or even local officials, I think
and the judges too, right? Even the judges, it's really important. I've seen, I was going to say, just throwing in the judges, I've seen a lot of people, because I watch a lot of cases, and a lot of people, it's like if you could get the judge to do the same thing, because the judge took an oath, and if you could get the judge on record, not to get off track, but I've seen where if you could get the judge, again, to go on record and say that they took the oath, then you basically put them on the spot, like what you're saying, you put them on the spot. And, people...
That's right. In many cases, it's not even just an oral, you actually say it. You actually sign a piece of paper where the oath is written out. So it's the real deal, and more of them need to be reminded, I think, because many people just do it as a routine matter, and they don't realize the impact of the duty that entails, but also that it's not just something you said. You didn't swear to the government or to your spouse or to your sister. You swore to God, that it would be before God as your witness that you would abide by those principles and those provisions. So I just think that maybe putting that out in the public more, so I think it's a very good point, to keep reminding people about that oath and what are the words of the oath and who do you ultimately swear that you'll uphold it to.
Well, there's actually a group called the Oath Keepers, and we've invited them. They've been to our things down we hold a thing at the library every Saturday, and they've come down. So there's actually a group of people listening. They're called Oath Keepers, and I think it's really important what we're talking about here. But Howard, you come in with some.
Yeah, I was just saying, as far as what you're saying is true, and again, the Oath Keepers, John Beadler and Waterbury Oath Keepers, he's great, and again, defending the Constitution. These are retired, for people out there listening. These are, and that might not know, the Oath Keepers are current and retired law enforcement and military that have sworn an oath and understand what that means. But you're right, and I think, Joe, it's part of this, like, just making it like a routine. In other words, tyranny gets a foothold when people don't pay attention. That's basically what's happened here. We have all these different tyrannical things, and people are just, so, involved with between the distractions of life and the complications of having to earn a paycheck to feed a family, maybe have 2 jobs and all this other junk that goes on and make ends meet. People don't have time to worry about these things, and that's, again, intentional. People have to realize that they're affecting every day that we're under this tyranny is a day closer to slavery. And I know that sounds extreme, but it's really true. I mean, how many more freedoms are we going to lose in the name of liberty?
I couldn't agree more. And it only sounds extreme to those people who don't know all the facts. I mean, that's what's so funny about this term extremist, because the one who will label you as an extremist is the very one who doesn't want the rest of the people to find out you're not an extremist. So that's why he has to label you like one, hoping that nobody will listen to you. It's so, and again, I see the same game plan that I've seen where the so-called tax protesters are demonized. It's the same dance card that's used against 9/11 people or sovereign people or whatever. They're desperate to keep people from listening to what you have to say and checking out whether what you're saying is factual. Because they know that if they can't stop somebody from checking out what you say is factual, then the bad guys are done for.
That's right.
Yeah. And that reminds me of what you were saying, that video I watched when it first came out. Was it, I forget the Conklin or something like that. You were talking about a guy who you were, writing to, and you gave me a number, and And here it is, you're an IRS agent who is calling an IRS protester, and how you were kind of nervous. I thought that was funny. If you want to mention that, I thought that was a really funny story.
Yeah, basically, when I first, after I heard Daisy Kidd on the radio, and I began to actually call some of the people that she referred to in her booklet, because she actually put their telephone number right in the booklet. And, she didn't redact out the last 4 digits or anything. It was all there. So I thought, well, I wonder what happened if I actually called these people. And so this one, Bill Conklin, I think it's like BillConklin.com is his website. I called him, and I got his voicemail or his phone recorder. And I said, kind of meekly and, typical naive Joe Banister, I just said, hi, Bill, my name is Joe Banister, and I work as an IRS special agent, but I'm not calling you in that capacity. I'm actually just calling to try to figure out who's telling the truth about this issue, about the income tax, and I'm hoping that you might call me back. And so he told me later that he thought, oh, come on. There's actually some guy that just cares about this issue and is calling me just to talk about it. This is a scam. This guy's trying to trip me up. And then the other thing is I had to give him my home telephone number. And so here I was, an IRS criminal investigator. We're just as paranoid as anybody. Like, oh, we don't want the tax protesters to know where we live or we go to church, So I didn't want to give him my office phone number because then somebody would say, Joe Banister, you have a call from Bill Conklin, the tax protester, on line 2. So my only alternative was to give him my home phone number. And yet I thought, well, the king of the tax protesters is going to come and rouse me out of my bed and, dance around the tax protester teepee tonight. I just didn't know. So it's kind of a funny story.
Well, I took a leap of faith there, yeah?
Well, it shows, though, that how special it is what you did, Joe. I mean, because even like that guy Conklin, like, for an IRS agent, I mean, what you did is really remarkable. And, that's unfortunately why there aren't a lot of other Joe Banisters we know about, because the majority of people don't do these things. They don't have the courage that you have. And, again, it's, you're really kind to say those things, but I really don't. I really blush. I don't think I did anything special. I'm so naive that I think, I'm just doing what my conscience is telling me I should be doing, and I'm actually just listening to my conscience. But I think maybe the thing that makes it seem so special is because no one else followed me out the door, or very few, if any, followed me out the door. Nobody speaks up about it, and I really. I don't know. I appreciate the compliment, but I mean, I'm really just a regular guy. I mean, that's why they call me Joe, right? Just regular Joe. You're an average Joe.
Yeah, I'm an average Joe, and it just turns out to be so out of the ordinary. But that's what's so sad, is because I really expected that other people. It's not that big a deal. It's not that hard, really, if you just try. Jesus. I'm a Christian. Jesus said, "Trust in me." Don't be fearful.
Well, that's what I was going to add.
Listen.
No, I'm sorry. I was just going to say that. I was going to add that because even when we had Fritz Sprigmeyer on once and others, it's really, we don't like to bring up religion to offend anyone or tell people what to believe, but it does seem like the people who believe in God don't have the fear. And that's why, it's that you love God and you believe in God is I'm sure, a big part of why you were able to do what you did. And a lot of people like Fritz and others and people who put their life on the line, to me, it's the people who believe in God. And when you believe in God, you don't have the fear of imprisonment and these things. So I know you look at it, you're an honest guy, just a regular guy, but unfortunately, the society we live in, a lot of people lost faith and don't believe in themselves or anything. So I agree, but it's amazing what you did, no matter what.
What about Sherry Jackson?
I hope that, it's good. And you guys are, really the biggest job that we all have is to be a good example and to do our best. And, none of us are perfect, but, there are people, whether people, if they don't think Jesus was perfect enough, there's other, Gandhi and different examples that people can look at in history where they can look at the way those people lived honorably and just try to mirror it as best you can. And it's a difficult road, but frankly, I see the more difficult road being the road where you have to cower in fear, where you have to, you're afraid to look into things because you're afraid of what you might find out. That, to me, seems to be the devastating life, the difficult life, the life where you're going to get, a lot of health problems. I'd much rather be free and at least, trying to do the right thing as best I can and trying to be a good example. And I hope I've begun to accomplish that. That's really my goal. But, you guys are all out there doing that. And we all can be such good examples and encourage people to jump on board.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm going to do that again. I used to do this a lot. I should do it more often. What we're doing here is exactly what you people out there that have information and that want to get involved and want to do something. This can be done. Create your own networks. Get your own radio shows. This is all possible. You have to take action. People that take action get things to happen. And if you want to make change, you have to make it. No one else is going to do it but you. And that's really true, because we've been saying that all along. Everybody has to... You say it so right, Joe. I mean, it is like whatever you want to call it, God or Buddha, or whatever your religion, or whatever it is that you hold, or just truth. Look at people that you emulate, or whatever it is, and follow that feeling. Follow the feeling that how can you live with yourself without expressing this to others, and to waking up the people that we can wake up. And it's not just like waking up to it's the whole New World Order. They've designed it to make us all out to look like we're crazy. But if the multitudes then grow, how can everybody be crazy? You see, that's the critical mass. That's the point. Like Roger Landry, who hopefully will be joining us from the We the People Network. Hopefully he'll be on. He said he'll try to pop in. We're on for another hour and a little bit more. So, but that's what it is. You have to hit that critical mass, and when we do hit this critical mass, it'll be like a tidal wave. It'll be like they just can't stop us because there'll be that awakening. It's close. We can do it. We just got to keep pushing, and there's got to be a lot of us that are willing to be soldiers. Soldiers for Christ, soldiers for whatever, goodness, truth, whatever you want to call it. We need to be these people.
Excellent point. I think that even without quizzing you guys about how old you are, I'm an old timer, almost 49 years old, but I've seen just since 1999, when I left the IRS, back in the last century, it's incredible, the exponential growth in people's awareness. And so it's almost, I think that's another benefit, shall we say, or a plus for just living a truthful, honorable life and letting people know what you think. It's such a plus to see that awareness just growing by leaps and bounds. It's so encouraging. I know we still have a long way to go, but if I was Howard making that point, that's exactly right. It's like you're going to see it's not going to stop. It's going to exponentially grow, and people like Jesse Ventura, wow, imagine that. A kook like that could actually run the state of Minnesota, and a kook like Joe Banister could actually carry a gun in a badge, even on airplanes. And a kook like Ron Paul could actually run for president. And, a kook like Vinny can actually run a radio show, and, on and on and on. So before you know it, people are like, wait, I thought kooks were people that, couldn't walk and shoot guns at the same time, but I see everybody doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, the thing, too, I've always noticed, and when I try to tell, I talk to a lot of the younger ones are a lot, easier to waken up. But people get frustrated in the beginning. There's like that, the people wake up, and then it's right away like the ones who are going to say something, they're going out and they're trying to say stuff and they get frustrated. But really what I try to tell people, it's a craft. And the more you know, the more knowledge and information you have, the easier it is to tell people. Especially the people who just wake up, you start trying to tell your family or other people, and they ask you a question and you don't know the answer, right there, you lost the person. So you really got to be like an expert, and you really got to know what you're talking about to impact a lot of these people. But there definitely is a big awakening. Joe, I'd like to get your opinion. I mean, we're saying there's a big awakening, but I feel like just 3 years ago, like it felt like nobody knew anything almost just 3 years ago, 4 years ago. I really couldn't find anybody who was talking about stuff. There were just a few, and it really, to me, it's like 3-4 years. Ever since like the Obama election, it just seems a lot more, and it really is getting affected now.
That's because Obama is such a horrible liar. He's just everything he says is a lie. He like makes Clinton look like a pious man. I mean, it's unbelievable. Come on, everything. The only truth that he kept was that he was going to bankrupt anybody that was going to go into the coal business. That he kept that promise, that he's going to bankrupt anybody if they make a coal plant. You know, whatever. Sorry to digress, but that's why everyone woke up.
I'm sorry to be like doing this on the air, but I mentioned to your producer beforehand that there was a relative who was really in bad shape, and also my cell phone battery is in kind of bad shape too. Were you expecting me to be on the rest of the hour, or?
We just, like I told you, it was whatever you wanted, Joe. I mean, if you would have spent 5 minutes, whatever you could have did, we would have been happy. So, whatever you want to do, if you want to go plug stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I do kind of have to. I mean, I certainly could stay a little longer. In fact, I hate to leave you guys in the lurch, but it sounds like you certainly have plenty of other issues to talk about, and maybe you're going to have a guest from We the People on. But if possible, I may have to kind of sign off.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for your time. Please, thank you so much for all your...
give the information before you go. I mean, what is it, freedomabovefortune.com? Anything you want to, plug, please do that.
Okay, thank you very much. We have freedomabovefortune.com, all one word. My flagship website. I've had it ever since I left the IRS in '99. Also, agentfortruth.com, all one word. Agent for Truth, and there's a lot of video links there. A recent interview I did with Alex Jones is linked there at Agent for Truth. And so, I encourage people to go there in their quest to educate themselves. And just so appreciative of you guys having me on. You're fighting a good fight here on a Saturday afternoon when everybody else is probably watching some kind of sports game, and you're on the ball doing the right thing. So I appreciate you guys too.
Well,
thank you, Joe.
I see it on your thing. It says you have a radio show on Saturdays. Is that true?
Yeah, Liberty Works Radio Network, and that's linked there at my website. LWRN is the acronym. LWRN.net stands for Liberty Works Radio Network. Saturday morning, 7 a.m. Pacific. So pretty darn early for an old guy like me.
All right. Yeah, definitely. So, thank you so much, Joe.
Really, thank you very much.
Thank you guys, and have me back on sometime, and when maybe my connection is better too, and I really appreciate the invitation.
Thank you. We definitely will.
Yeah, you're welcome here anytime, Joe.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Wow, that was Joe Banister, everybody. That was awesome. Awesome, Vinny, right?
Yeah, it's great what we're doing, not to tap ourselves on the backs, but I mean, we are doing good stuff, Howard. And,
we're trying.
Our listeners, we're trying to get you people that you're going to be interested in, people you know. Joe Banister's a big guy. I mean, he's the real deal, and I'm really happy. Yeah, that was awesome to have him on. And like I was saying to him, and it too, Howie, I mean, most of us listening know a lot of people just aren't going to come out and do these things, and that's why it really is so special to people like Joe Banister. He's very modest, but I mean, the truth is the truth. I mean, there's nobody really doing what he's doing.
No.
Him, Sheila Jackson, I mean, that's really the only two IRS agents I ever heard that did this. So, I mean, there might be more, but, he's a special guy. He's very, he's so calm and well-spoken, but he's a special guy. It was awesome.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah, Sherry Jackson really got a raw deal. She almost died because it's an incredible, unbelievable thing. she
Now,
was.
she got arrested. Did she actually get arrested? I think I heard something where she actually lost. Did she lose a case?
Yes, she went to jail. She spent a lot of time in jail away from her husband and her family. And then what happened was somebody sent her a publication. I don't remember the details of it off the top of my head, but it was a subscription. You know, like while you're in jail, you know, just getting a subscription that said that she did it, but they bought the subscription. And it said on there that the IRS should kill or should kill her or something like that, and that was the topic of the thing. And there was like again an attack on her. Then once they had that, the government started to not give her the medicines that she needed, and she was very sick. It's all on record. This is terrible, terrible stuff. It happened some time ago, but not that long ago, and I believe she recently got out of prison. So it's a horrible story, but it's all on record. Everyone can go and look this up. It's not out of my... Don't listen to anything that you've heard today or anything that we say and just believe it and go parrot it off because, you know, without knowing the facts, and then you start spreading, you know, things. You've got to understand the truth, right? You know, isn't that true? You know, things can be like, you know, without knowing the facts, if you start reporting information, that becomes disinformation, right?
Yep.
So anyway, we got to stop that from happening. So people can't jump the gun when they hear an event and realize that it's going to be...
What about, we should try to maybe get some more of them. One of them I was thinking is that one DV kid. To be honest, Howie, I mean, I you know me and Wayne Cooper, I still remember listening to... DV Kid was on William Cooper's show back in 1993.
That's right.
Talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
So, you know, DV's been around for a while. That's probably another person.
Yeah.
You know, maybe we should try to contact.
Yeah, let's do that. That's a good idea. Let's get again. We got a list of people that I'm going to be getting on here down the road. I got a couple of people down the road again. This whole idea of do that show with Barbara Hartwell and. I forget who it was that she's doing it with, but somebody that she's been doing some shows regarding this topic of how they're demonizing. It's again this attack on religion, like we were talking about earlier, attack on Christianity, attack on Judaism, attack on. But right now the Muslims have been like demonized. It's funny, we were talking about that with the police movies, even in those movies, the comedies. So it's all to destroy all religions. Remember, and just get to like this Gaia, like Earth religion, and be good and green, and even back in those days, it was crazy. Like in those movies, they were talking about all this thing like climate control, and then I'm watching, flipping through the bullshit channels, and one of these movies with Justin Timberlake and Mila Kunis, whatever, and he's like flipping through these. He has to make a choice between doing a magazine article on global warming or some other bullshit. So it's constantly in your face. Some movie that they were in together, like they're lovers.
I should have brought up. I was thinking. You just reminded me of a movie. Damn it! I wanted to look it up so I could have said it to Banister.
It's almost in every movie.
But do you remember a couple of years ago that guy Will Ferrell, that comedian Will Ferrell?
Sure.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
He was in a movie recently to where he was an IRS agent. And it's comedy. So he's like this IRS agent, and he goes and there's this, you know, pretty girl that works in a store, and, you know, that's the story of him, like, you know, him starting to like each other and blah, blah, blah. That's the story. But one of the scenes that I remember watching it with my girl at that time, and I was like, did you hear that? And one of the parts, he's sitting there, like, you know, he's an IRS agent, and he's, you know, he's picking on the girl. He keeps talking about, you know, you got to do this, and you got to report that, and blah, blah. And she, just a real quick scene, she turns around and she says, no, it's voluntary. I don't volunteer for it. And they put it right in the movie.
Right in your face. They do. They put it right in your face. Yes.
She said it right in the movie. It was like a double take from me. I was like, did you hear that?
Unbelievable.
You know, but, you know, nobody picks up on it and laughs at Will Ferrell and life goes on. But
it's incredible.
Yeah, they put it in that movie. I had to find out the name so I could give the exact name of that movie. But definitely, they put it in the movies. That's, you know, we always talk about the mind control and, you know.
It's there. It's real. I mean, it's all there. The mind control is big. Oh, yeah. Same thing with Cooper was right on that. You know, it's funny. Let's go back to listen. This is stuff from like Eustace Mullins. Listen to this, Vinny. Now, this is all history. Again, documented history. It's all from. He got this from the Library of Congress. All this information was done from the book. The research from this book was done there. Okay. The New York Times stated that the Tsar of Russia, remember Tsar Nicholas, I should say, not Alexander, Tsar Nicholas. Tsar Nicholas had $5 million in guaranteed trusts and $1 million in the National City Bank, and other authorities stated it was $5 million in each bank. Between 1905, this is important, between 1905 and 1910, the Tsar had sent more than $900 million to be deposited in 6 New York banks: Chase, National City, which is both Rockefeller, Guaranteed Trust, J.P. Morgan, which is the Rothschilds, Hanover, and Manufacturers Trust. These were the principal banks controlled by the House of Rothschild through their American agents, J.P. Morgan and Kuhn Loeb and Company. They were also the 6 New York banks which bought the controlling stock in the Federal Reserve of New York in 1914. They have held control of the stock ever since. It cannot be bought, it cannot be sold. It goes down in a family bloodline, and that's on record. All right. The Tsar also had $115 million in 4 English banks, and he had $35 million in the Bank of England, $25 million in Barings, all this money, right? So my point is, when they basically stole the Tsar's money, when they killed him, it goes down. I mean, I don't want to read into the whole thing, but this is all on record. There was billions and billions of dollars that they used to fund. First of all, the money was in these American banks. On record, the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, J.P. Morgan, funded the Bolshevik Revolution, funded this, and then they stole the gold. Like they still stole the gold in Libya, okay? Like when they just took out. It's the same dialectic. It's over and over again. Very interesting for you guys to realize. Everybody, please research the New World Order. Actually, it's called The World Order by Eustace Mullins. He wrote it in 1985. It took him 40 years of research. It's an incredible work.
Yeah, that's another special guy, is your boy. I mean, you were the one, I mean, you know a lot more about him than I do.
Yeah, but it's, his research is unbelievable.
Yeah, it is, and he was the real deal. He was another special guy. He really was.
Because the idea is that now they took down, they did the same thing with the people. Now they're bringing us into serfdom. They're actually doing the same thing that they did to the Russian people back at that time. I don't know if you remember history or even the dumbed down history in school that everybody was taught without any further research. You'd remember that they were peasants, right? Remember the Bolsheviks were killing the peasants and all of that, and torturing them, and they brought in the communism and Stalin. He killed 40 million people. Okay?
His own, right?
His own people. All right? So those folks that are out there that might not know this and understand that this is what it breeds. This is the result of banking controlling countries. Really is really what it is, because it's let's face it, the funding of all these regimes were done to facilitate war, and they had to buy war materials and armaments and like they're doing here now, and having situations like Homeland Security head at the time, Michael Chernoff, setting up a deal to put in all these naked body scanners and all of that all over the country and all over the world, basically through a company, mostly Rapiscan, and then stepping down as Homeland Security Chief so that Big Sis can become Homeland Security Chief, and then he becomes the CEO of Rapiscan after facilitating this huge deal. This is all on record.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Howie, I got to tell you this. I've been sitting here. You know how I'm here in New York.
Yeah.
There's actually like a fire in the woods. There's little fire trucks around the house. I'm trying to be quiet.
Are you kidding me? You're in the middle of a fire zone? Come on, let's report the fire zone. Where is it? What's...
2 fire trucks just left the house with this stuff for hours. And I'm sitting here talking to you.
So for 2 hours, Vinny, there's been a fire outside your window, and you've been talking online with Joe Banister and I?
Yeah, trying to be quiet so the listeners don't have to hear all the noise.
I don't hear the fire trucks, but really, so it's burning. So tell me what's going on. I mean, is it dangerous to be there? I mean, you're on a phone. Why don't you just drive away?
To be honest, I've just been sitting here inside talking to you, so once I'm done, I'll go out there and see. It looks like this.
Well, why don't you go outside? We're broadcasting worldwide. What town is this in or vicinity? What vicinity?
It's in Monroe, New York.
Monroe, New York. Okay, there's a brush fire because it's so dry. There's a lot of brush fires all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah, and on this block. So, yeah, I'm looking right now. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fire people here.
Wow.
And they're connecting the hose. If you hear that, that's them pulling the big hose.
I hear them.
In front of me. So let me get out of there so I don't have to hear this noise.
Unbelievable. No, that's incredible. I mean, I hope it just. It just makes sure you're safe, and
Yeah, well, I keep looking out the window.
Yeah. Okay.
A little flame coming.
All right, because that's crazy. But there's a lot. Yeah, it's very dry over here in the Northeast by where we are, and they're hoping for some rain. It's supposedly getting 3 inches of rain over the next 2 days, but not soon enough, I guess, for this. But it's incredible. Yeah. I mean, this whole fraud with the IRS, Vin. I mean, it really pisses me off. And again, it's back to the fact that it's these criminal bankers who are trying to enslave us and bring us back to serfdom. And those that are at the top will be rewarded to a certain degree. They'll live in their as the rest of us are suffering under this horrible tyranny. It reminds me of Metropolis, Fritz Lang's movie. I mean, it's just like that. I mean,
yeah.
It's just like Fritz Lang's movie Metropolis. You have the elite at the top, and literally you can see that they're at the top. They're in the stars, in space. And then you have the middle area, these sort of like managers. And then in the bottom, in the boils of the earth, are the slave workers at the bottom of the pyramid. Yeah. It's just unbelievable.
And we don't mean it was all about the industry and the music.
Yeah.
I told you how a lot of music videos actually tie into that Metropolis movie. And
Big time.
Spears and a lot of these people are actually emulating scenes from that movie. Rihanna and all these people, they dance and do certain things that actually come from that movie Metropolis.
There's no doubt. No, there's definitely ritualistic moves. Yes.
Wasn't it she was
there's a robot.
I didn't see the original version. You probably did.
Yeah, it's a robot.
I seen the one. Yeah, where that blonde girl, she's blinking and changing, or they make it almost like the old person dies and now this new Illuminati girl basically comes, right?
Yes.
That one girl dies on that table, and then this blonde, and she does this dance that you see, Aguilera and Britney Spears and them doing the same dance that girl in that video, in that movie.
Yeah.
So.
It's creepy. Yeah. It's creepy. It's obviously a connection, but I'm just saying, I think what Fritz Lang was also saying, he was making a statement, but just like in these other movies, or these other things you were saying, Vinny, like when they put it right in your face. They put it right in your face, that it's right in your face, But the average person doesn't see it. But then when the masses wake up, oh my God, when they really, if they can get out of their trance, that hitting that critical mass point, there's going to be some hellish of a price to pay, because people are not going to be, listen, we're just trying to wake people up, but this is it. This is the way we have to do this. We have to get people of our thinkings in office, really. And as corrupt as that is, I mean, how are you going to do that? You gotta figure out how this is all going to work out. I mean, I like to talk about solutions. I was just thinking, I was talking the other day with a friend about, most important thing to talk about. I mean, we know what all this is going on. What can we talk about as far as solutions, Vin? We got to think about ways that we know that we got to come together as a communities. We have to bring the families back together because they're breaking them up. Yeah. Sort of reconnect what they broke apart. But
well, you and Banister, we were all saying that. I mean, it really is one of the things is just what we're doing, Howie. Just getting the message out there, and what Banister's doing, and a lot of people. And the more people we could get, to wake up, it's going to be, a lot easier. And we all know that it's. It's a trance. That's where we always joke. Joke about this, but it really it just takes that one moment, and the switch will go off for whoever's still not awake that we're talking about.
That's right.
It's just going to take that one moment to where all of a sudden that switch goes off, and then everything is going to open up, and then they're going to be with us. So we gotta, like I was saying, a lot of people, you wake up, and it's what I did. This is what I tell these young kids. There's a lot of young guys here in New York, these younger kids. I'm talking 15, 16, 18, a little older, where they're in school arguing, and which is good. I'm glad they're speaking up and talking about things. They watch our show. But what I tell them is they're doing the same thing that I did, and I'm sure you've done, and a lot of people, is when you first wake up, and you're someone like us or Banister, where you want to do something. We're not the people that, okay, I know what's going on now, I'm just going to go watch the Yankees. We know what's going on, and then it's, well, we got to do something, we got to save our families. And so what do? We start right away. Hey, do you know about chemtrails? Do you know about this? And people in the beginning, they just say something, and then you get mad and you're just stupid, you're just a sheep. That's what happens to a lot of people. And I admit, I was someone like that in the beginning too. Oh, you're an idiot. I don't want to waste my time with you. But once you do it, like we've been, for years I've been doing it, and the more you do it, the more knowledge, then it's like you're a professor, and you don't have to get that anger. And it's really a craft, is what I keep trying to explain to people. Like, you got to learn more, because if someone asks you a question and you don't answer it, right there, you lost them. So you got to be able to answer everybody's question. And a big trick, trying to teach people listening of how, tricks of how to work. You can't push. You push at someone and they push back. You don't come at someone and say, hey, stupid, or did you know this? That's not the right way. What I do is you ask a question. You ask to them. You don't say this is what it is. You say, hey, what do you think that is? And then let's say they say, oh, well, that's water vapor. Oh, well, you think water vapor is staying in the sky for an hour? Like, you know what I mean? You ask questions. That's something I learned in sales, and you're in sales. I'm sure you know some of these tricks.
Yeah. Well, they're not tricks. It's just a technique. It's called the Socratic method. But yes, it's asking questions. Yes, and then you get them to respond, and then you know which area to lead them towards a yes response.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's definitely a sales technique. Yeah. But that's right. That's good. Yeah, you ask questions, because they don't think about asking these questions. They're not. It's just like the people that's buying a roof, or if they're buying an alarm system. It doesn't matter. They're just thinking about, I need a roof, I need an alarm system, or whatever it is. They're not thinking about the details of it. Just like people are not thinking about the details of this information we're giving them. So yeah, asking questions is how you'll lead yourself to the sale. They know they want this. They know they want truth. Everybody wants truth. I mean, what do you want to be lied to your whole life, right? So
yeah, but like we talk, we always say, the minute someone hears bad news, their first reaction is denial and anger.
Yes, it's it's a funeral. It's like what you really have to do is you are burying. You are literally waking up is the point of death of this compartmentalized, world that you were living in. That this understanding that everything that you knew was sort of a lie, and then coming to that realization that your entire belief system was a lie. So when that happens, there's going to be grief, just like death of a human being. There's going to be a period of grief that you've been deceived, and that this is the reality, and then maybe even a feeling of overwhelmingness and all this other stuff, because you start to realize that it's real, and it starts to amplify. I mean, this is how it happened to me. I'm just trying to describe it. And then you go through different phases of what are you going to do about it. Well, what are you going to do about it is you're going to get to the point where you can understand that God gave you this understanding, or whoever, or the greatest forces in whatever you want to call it, all these different forces, whatever, positive forces. If you're not a believer in God or whatever, I mean, again, we're not into this. We don't want to make this a religious thing. Our personal beliefs are that. But we know that it has to do with people that want goodness, good things, positivity. In the realm of that's where we're at, that energy. And now you understand. So you take this information, digest it, and then spread it. And it's not just our show. I'm not saying spread our show. I'm saying do your own spreading. The only way we can do this is to multiply our efforts. So whatever we do,
like you said, other people do shows,
right? Exactly. Everybody.
We're in this for competition. We're in this to win and help.
Exactly. Exactly. Right on. And the more of us that do this, the less of us. They can't attack us all. That's my point. We're getting attacked now because I can actually say that as far as since I've been doing this, that it's like again, it's this. We're sort of attackable because there's not really enough of us. Like if there was 10 of us or 20 of us, it makes it harder. If there was 100 of us, it makes it harder for them to attack us all. So like our power is so they at this point we need more people to do this. It's exactly the truth. And whatever it is, just exposing this truth. Talk about the Federal Reserve if that's your issue. Then make a whole damn thing about the Federal Reserve.
Well, like Banister said, maybe for a lot of people, maybe one topic is a better thing to do.
Yes.
Because instead of trying, and I'll admit, I do that a lot. You all know me and the research I do. I research the craziest things, so I am all over the place sometimes, and that does, sometimes it's probably better just to focus on one challenge instead of trying to take on everything. I thought that was really good advice, and I'll have to practice it myself a little.
Yeah, it is good advice. I think that generally, like we cover a lot, but like I said from the very, very first time that I've ever done this, and the reason I was trying to explain and wake people up, imagine it this way. It is a spider web. The New World Order is a spider web of control over all these different aspects of life, and there are all these different clues or like leads like Joe was talking about. And there's certain leads that you should follow other than faster than other ones, more important than other ones. But there is like this cohesiveness. It is a spider web. It all meets in the middle, and in the middle is the control grid, the controllers, the top of the pyramid, whatever you want to call it. And all of these different aspirations continue. And the pit of evil is bottomless. It just keeps going. Because within all of the organizations and within all of that compartmentalization, there is even more deception and evil. And that's because they're not trying to help humanity. They're trying to enslave humanity with the premise of helping humanity with vaccines and good, we're going to give you, this is better, you'll have more food because Monsanto, these seeds will make you have bigger production. Meanwhile, they'll starve you in India. Yeah, all sorts of crap. You know how it goes, brother. It's crazy. It's crazy.
So.
Yeah. Well, I was just ranting. I don't know. We can go on.
It was a good show.
It's a good show, yeah.
I think, if there's any callers.
Oh, yeah, good thing. Yeah, give us a shout. Yeah, the number's 860-866-4344. We'll be here until 8 p.m., and then we have Ronnie Bennett with Outside the Margins and Chris Honeyfield talking about certain things. I don't know exactly what her show's on this evening, but she's great. And also, I just want to give a shout-out to everyone who's been helping to get the network going. Continuing to flourish, like, of course, Harry Link at Truth Broadcast. We're streaming live at truthbroadcastnetwork.com. And also a shout-out to Bobby K at projectfreedom.ws. And Roger Landry will be joining us from wethepeoplenetwork.com. He also helps to spread our message here in our broadcast. All thanks to everybody.
I haven't spoken to him in a while. I can't wait to hear his voice.
Yeah, I spoke with him this morning. I woke him up. Yeah, it was like 12 o'clock, I figured he'd be up by noon, but nah, he stays up real late doing this work. He puts in incredible amount of effort and hours. And he's got some great news coming up. I don't want to break it, but definitely never going to steal his thunder ever again. I did that once, I'll never do it again. So, so certainly he's got some good news, and that's why I'm happy to have him on whenever he joins us. He probably will be. I know he's got other things going on right now. He's very busy right now, all good things.
Can you tell the people about what's going to be happening at the end of the month for Roger?
No, that's sort of what I was. I didn't want to mention that. Yeah, okay. That's one of the things I was talking about. Yeah. So I just figured, let him discuss what's going on. But no, it's good. A lot of good stuff going on right now. A lot of positive things. A lot of positive changes are going to be happening, and I'm real happy about it. Going to be getting into some multimedia applications that'll be better for the production and other things, and reaching wider audiences. With the message, and I'm very privileged, and we both are. We're just like Vinny and I guess I can speak for you too, Vinny. We're pretty privileged to be having the opportunity to get all this information out to you, So, yeah. I have to get something to drink. So you got anything to? I'm like, my mouth is totally dry. I ran out of coffee here. Go on with a couple of. Do you have anything on your mind that you wanted to talk about? I'll be back in just like 40 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'll just go back to Joe Banister.
Oh, yeah, continue with Banister, yeah.
What?
No, I was going to say, yeah, continue.
Okay.
Or talk about the group, continue with Banister, whatever else. I mean, any group information going on right now? I didn't even...
Okay. Well, for the group,
Yeah.
honestly, I don't know. I talked to Jim this morning for a little, but if anybody, we have the wearechange.connecticut.org website.
Yep.
Jim does a good job of having the schedule pretty accurate, and you can see what we're always doing. We talked about when we did the cleanup at the water revival, Naugatuck. Hopefully we can do that again. I had fun with that, so maybe we'll do that in another month. We always have the things in the library every other Saturday. So I think it's next Saturday. We'll be in the Silas Bronson Library in Waterbury. So people can come to that. And it sounds like you're back. But so, yeah, to go back to Joe Banister, again, very, very thankful that he came on the show. He's a busy guy. He's doing a lot of things. He is the face, like we were talking about it. I mean, you think IRS agent, you think Joe Banister and Sheila Jackson, really, Sherry Jackson.
Yeah.
So, that's why it's just great for our listeners and for us, to be able to talk to people like this.
Well, again, I'm very, very privileged. It's very privileged to be getting into into this community and really, I mean, sort of like, I don't know, being embraced by it relatively quickly. I mean, so many good people are our friends now, Vin. I can't tell you. I mean, how that makes me feel personally. It's really, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to get like, it's just unbelievable. But again, even more, like we're talking about now, Joe Banister. Well, down the road, I'm hoping. I mean, nothing's written in stone. I mean, God willing. Sherry's going to join us in the future, hopefully, as well, when she can, and we'll go farther into that, down the road, hopefully. Other people that that right now I just don't really have anything solid on that we're going to be talking with and expanding, but yeah. And then again, it's just great. I don't know how to say it. I just feel all the information's coming out great.
I always mention that there's so many issues we keep bringing up, but one of the most important to me is the nonviolent stuff, and the income tax and the sovereignty and all that stuff. To me, is really like one of the biggest issues, especially the sovereignty and all that.
Yeah.
So, I'd like to definitely try to get more people, in this field, to talk about these issues, because to me they seem like the most important. Where honestly, it might not be as sexy or as interesting, as let's say the Fritz stuff or the archaeology. Where to me, I love that stuff. It's so interesting. You all know how much I'm into that stuff. But to be honest, it's not as important to me as state sovereignty, the income tax, things like this, that where if we could just educate the people, it could be the nonviolent way of winning. So,
well, that's what we do. That's what Roger does with us. I mean, We the People Network, we're talking about legal ways to basically take back this government from the. I mean, again, it doesn't have to just necessarily be individual. We can really get back the government, which is a hopeful goal. I mean, that's the. I mean, he's got 10 million people now. That's a lot of people.
Yep.
I mean, that's a lot of patriots like us, Guy. I mean, this is like this is no joke, and it's growing, and it's just, and that's why he doesn't have as much time as he used to have, because it literally is exponentially grown like 5 times since we started broadcasting. You realize that, and that's only in a couple of. We've only been doing this 5 months, right?
Yep.
It's unbelievable. So, yeah, the message is getting out. People are waking up, and the activists are getting together. So we're forming, for lack of a better word, an army. For the FBI that's listening, that doesn't mean that we're a violent organization. We're just talking about this because I know you guys are listening, and other people, obviously. But seriously speaking, this is all about waking up the people to the fact that tyranny is right in their face, and they laugh at you when you say, "Oh, who cares? We got to protect ourselves from terrorists," when they grope you at the airport, or it's not a big deal to get radiated, or all these other things.
Or the income tax.
Or the income tax. Yeah.
The IRS. So let me just pay.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah,
just pay because this is the way it is. Because that's the way it is.
Yep.
You know, just accept the way. Nobody wants to fight. Nobody, it's just the way it is.
That doesn't mean physically. That just means, spiritually.
Yes, exactly. Right. Nobody wants to resist. Resist is the word, right? Resist. That's the right word. Resist. Resist the New World Order. Yeah.
Yeah.
God, I get worn out. I get worn out sometimes. It really does. It's just unbelievable.
Well, we all got, we're all trying to stay busy. So.
Yeah, no, it's good. I've got a lot of, like I said, we got so many things down the pike, and a lot of changes will be coming. Hopefully, we'll get some better applications with the video. We're going to try to do somehow get a visual, better Skype thing going on here than we have here with the live stream and the Skype. Trying to marry these things together somehow and figure that out and get some software or something to do that, so that we can improve. You see, my live stream, for some reason, it doesn't accept the Procaster. I don't know why. So it's like I can't do certain things I'm trying to figure out. But we'll get there. We'll get there, brother. We'll get there. All right. Any news that you wanted to go over? I have some news. If you don't, I'll grab some news.
Not that I can think of right now. If something comes up, I'll bring it up.
Yeah.
I'll listen to you.
Yeah, let's see what we got going on here. There should be some news or information that I had here. Where did I put it? Doesn't matter. I remember in Connecticut there was a couple of things there. There was, again, some more interesting rulings that they had regarding the fact that the freaking Children and Family Services is just a really horrific organization, and all they've been doing is they just they just really, they don't check families out properly. They just place these kids in unsafe environments. It's just horrific what they do, and they just passed a resolution that they're going to do more in-depth analysis into the backgrounds of these people, because it's unbelievable that in a state like Connecticut, that they're literally putting these in people that have abusive households, that they're on drugs, and how this happens. I can only imagine is from just no investigation. People lax investigations, or worse, I don't know. They're in unsafe environments. There's been child abuse, sexual abuse, all sorts of horrible things. Right here in Connecticut, in this supposedly wealthy state, good state, to live in, and at least they're addressing it. And again, going back to the GMO food resolution, it looks like that's going to pass. So they're going to have to label the GMO if it's GMO. I went and got some seeds the other day, brother, and I'm putting my garden together. So I have the seeds. Nice. I have the seeds, and I'm for a whole bunch of things. And it's so nice. Heart seeds are non-GMO seeds, and it says it right there. And it's beautiful to see that while we still can, before Monsanto completely destroys that. Now, they're again collectivists, and they're just making these patents and the seeds so that they have to be purchased every year, and they're trying to just modify everything. If you don't get non-GMO seeds, if it doesn't say no GMO, it is a GMO seed, basically. So beware, everybody that's planting. It is planting season, So you want to keep that in mind. And other than that, what else is going on in Connecticut? They're still undetermined what it was that fell into Bantam Lake. The UFO that fell, probably the size of a whale. It was described, made hell of a splash and scared the hell out of everybody. Undetermined what it is. Military, nothing, they reported it and again dropped out of the news. It's been pretty much a quiet subject, I don't know. They said that it might have been that blue ice, but I doubt it. Blue ice that's the size of a whale, That's a hell of a chunk, right? Let's see what else was going on. I'm trying to remember locally because I remember I just lost my clippings. I had more clippings. Yeah,
any Ron Paul news, anything like that?
Good Ron Paul news is that Roger Landry told me that Ron Paul's media marketing director will be contacting me about getting some information to help support his actually here in Connecticut the primary is Tuesday. So we'll give a shout out to Ron Paul, of course, and the supporters. So yeah, we are. I'm not going to have a show in between now and then, obviously, but we're going to do our best to get some more information out and keep the thing going because obviously it continues past Connecticut. So we'll be having a contact with his media people. So we'll be getting some exposure. Who knows who we can get on the air, Vinny? I mean, anything's possible, right? So. We'll just keep going, keep doing what we're doing, fighting the good fight, and if something gets in our way, we deal with it. That's it. Transitions, things happen. I don't mean attacks happen, losing equipment, breaking down, things happen. Computer seems to be, I did a sweep here on my computer. I cleaned it out. Should be running a little better now after that last hack. But still, we don't have any camera to record anything, so thank you for zapping my high-def camera, guys. It was so nice of you listening in there. The people that are listening in, I think you're in, probably in, I don't know what part of Virginia you're in, but you're listening from Virginia, I know that. So, I know I sound like a nut, but I guess you don't realize that this is on record as well, that the FBI has been recording all internet radio since November of 2011 by an unknown company in Virginia. Probably Langley-based, probably CIA. Again, remember, Rita Zelvier, who owns LexisNexis, is the data mining company, so just keep that in mind. So things are really connected in this big spider web of evil that meets in the middle that has a bottomless pit. So, there we go. Again, another rant, but sometimes I can't help it.
Yeah.
Oh, Vinny. So next week, what do we got planned for next week?
All the people leave all the fire trucks.
Oh yeah, the fire trucks. Yeah, what's going on with this fire? That's unbelievable that you've been so calm as your neighborhood is burning.
I'm in front of it. Everybody's leaving.
Well, at least they put it out.
It must be done.
Good. It was probably just there's a lot of them. I mean, up here in Northwest Connecticut and the whole state of Connecticut, and I guess in that part of New York. That's upstate New York, Monroe, right? So. Yeah, yep. It's definitely been very dry, not a lot of rain, so we're going to have that kind of a situation here.
It's just weird because it's just all woods. There's no, street or anything. They literally just went into the middle of the woods. I don't know how that happened, but...
Yeah, just somebody threw a cigarette, or it could even be just kindling, who knows, what happens.
Yeah.
But so far it's been a few fires here. I drove to work the other day and the median was on fire, and you could see the smoke burning, So they put it out. There's been a little small brush fires here and there, so they make a big advisory. Because people are idiots. They throw cigarettes out their window. It's just like absolutely crazy thing to do. But whatever.
Yeah.
Going across the bridge. Let's see. Next week, do we have any? We didn't have any scheduled guests on the record, actually, did we? Or we have some? We have. When is Doyle? Doyle's supposed to be on the record soon.
I'm hoping for Doyle, to be honest, but it's not. It's not set, so it's not. We won't say that, but
right.
And Professor Griff, I was telling you, Saturdays is tough for him. He's actually really busy on Saturdays, so I'd have to do we'd have to do a recording.
Oh yeah, okay. We'll try to do. I'll try to do that, or maybe we could do a special Friday broadcast, and set that up. So.
Oh yeah, do a certain day that he could do it and do it live on that day.
Yeah, we'll promote it.
What I really want, and I talked to him about, is once we do this and we do the show, we'll let that play a little, let it get out to people, to watch it, and then I was talking to him about setting up something like, hey, why don't you come to this library? I seen him go to libraries and bookstores and things, so I was like, hey, we got a library, you can come there, Waterbury is a big city with a lot of
110,000 people,
minority and everybody there. It could probably be a really big thing right there in Waterbury. So, that is definitely something possible. Think about how great that would be. How much the group and people in Connecticut would like to just go up and hang out with Griff and listen to him talk about the industry and everything.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. And again, that is our sort of our home base right there at the Silas Bronson Library on Grand Street, 267 Grand Street in Waterbury, Connecticut. We meet there every other Saturday, not every Saturday. Yeah. 10:30 to 2, and again, we have the broadcast, the We Are Change Connecticut radio show every Saturday from 5 to 8 p.m. here on informedradio.com, streaming across with projectfreedom.ws, and again, a shout out to Bobby Kay and to everybody that's helping us get the broadcast out. Ronnie Bennick's going to be joining us again with Outside the Margins and Chris Honeyfield at 8 p.m. coming up in just about 22 minutes or so. And again, thanks to Pam Suggs at UnitedTruthSeekers.com for helping us with get this message out, as well as, of course, Harry Link at DeathToTheNewWorldOrder.com and TruthBroadcastNetwork.com, where we are streaming live right now. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It doesn't look like Roger's going to be able to make it again this time.
I don't know. He has been busy, but he did say he would have had about 15 or 20 minutes. Maybe he something came up. I don't know. I did leave a message on his. I messaged him with the call-in number again, which he, and everything. And he hasn't gotten back to me.
Yeah.
But it's okay. He's busy. He's got a lot. Like I said, he does have a big thing. I don't want to necessarily blow the whistle on it, but he's got a. He's already doing a show which reaches about 30 million people in the Middle East with a. I forget her name completely. It always escapes me, but she's a very well known, basically, human rights and peace activist in Turkey. And she's reaching a tremendous audience there on the Al Jazeera network. So I know it involves that. And they're already doing a show together now. They do it on Thursdays, every Thursday, I believe, at 9 o'clock on...
That's great.
Yeah.
That's so big.
It's big, man. It's real big.
Very happy for Roger.
It's amazing, and they're growing in such a way, and there's, again, to the point where we're going to, try to hopefully become like one united, organization to get this message out as we're doing. I mean, growing pretty rapidly. There's so many partners. It's unbelievable. I can't even begin to tell you how many people are in on this. But we are here at We Are Change Connecticut and Inform Radio. Very proud to be partners with We the People Network, which is now reaching again worldwide. Now we're having a big presence now in southern part of Europe, which is like in that lower part of the Middle East there. With Turkey, and it's big. Yeah, it's real big. So hopefully we'll all continue to grow and get the messages out there, and the fact that, hey, there's a lot of things. Again, this is what they talk about, and I'd like to talk about this because we touched on this, and I've spoken to other people in this movement that are big advocates to understanding this, that there is just so much hatred and evil in the world, trying to foment this by dividing people. And it is factual because, again, this woman is from Turkey, and she is absolutely exposed the fact that in that whole region there is no hatred of as they say about Americans, like this big conspiracy that there's this that they hate us and all of that. It's a lie, and that's a beautiful thing that we can
emulate us. The youth, they're being lied to too, where they see all the fancy clothes and the MTV, and again, I brought up earlier the arrivals. They put one of the most powerful things was they showed, the famous movie The Last Samurai, right?
Sure, yeah.
Which is a great movie about the Japanese being the samurais. And they show, back in the day, that, how great they lived, right? Like these samurais and how, that really is an amazing way that they lived and pure and all this. And then they show the scene where the emperor, right, is talking to Cruz, and he's like, I dreamed of the day for us to be unified, with the West. And we're going to have Western clothes and all this stuff. And they show that in the movie. And then you fast forward the arrivals, and they show you, like, the music videos and things like that now. And you see them just like here in America,
Right.
in Japan and all over. You got these, the girls dressed like whores singing, and the guys dressed, with their hat sideways. Yes, in Japan.
Yeah, exactly. Just put on Japan MTV. Absolutely.
And hat to the side, and they're dancing and the cleavage and everything, So, just like there's a lot of people here who don't know the truth, that's the same thing all around the world. And for them, probably even worse, because they don't have all the luxuries that we do to find out stuff with the internet and, all the comedies that we have here. So, a lot of them don't know anything than what they're being told on television, too. And a lot of them want to come to America, and they want to live that, again, like the people who love America that here, that fake image, they see the fake image, that whole, it's so great, you can make all this money and you got all this freedom, that's what people think. So, yeah, a lot of them want to come. I actually, when I first realized that, Howard, is I went to Amsterdam. I went to Amsterdam years ago, and it was after 9/11. And I was expecting to, because the TV was telling me, Muslims hate us and everybody hates America. So I was kind of like, thinking that people weren't going to like me because I was American. And I found out that almost everybody speaks English, and almost everybody likes us.
Yeah, of course.
And everybody says, I want to go to New York, and I want to go to America, and I want, and they want the American dream. We know it's just a dream.
Well, it's also like we can talk about Israel again. It's also like the way that in America, the way Israel is treated in the media, as opposed to, for example, the way Al Jazeera shows Israel, or like even the BBC, the way they show certain things in Palestine. They just never show anything in American television depicting Israel in any possible poor light. And they don't do that with our own government. So listen, it's not like we're against Israel. We're against tyranny, okay? They're doing this in our government. We have a goddamn Guantanamo Bay torture chamber. We have goddamn rendition. We have National Defense Authorization 1031 and 1032. Take us away forever. Never see us again. Erase us from history like Stalin. The Nazis that took over our goddamn government, controlling us. Mm-hmm. And, and this is unbelievable. But anyway, I just rant. Because it's true.
I was just thinking too, where we're talking about, you and Hartwell and like the anti-Jewish.
We're definitely showing that.
All this stuff that goes on, and what I wanted to say is that's another thing that's created to take away from the real issues of Israel, because to me I try to explain it like, first of all, when people like the bloodlines, Jew is a religion. That's not a race. So that's like a big thing that people mess up with, but there's so much hate against Israel and the Jewish people that the minute someone hears anything like the term Israel, they think that you're against the whole race of Jewish people.
Yeah, they identify the country with a race of people with an origin.
Yeah, they make the people think that Israel, and like if you say something about Israel, you're anti-Jewish, and that's the whole
that's the control. Yeah, that's how they do. That's right. That's part of this whole racism. Yeah, absolutely, definitely.
It's like saying I don't like New Jersey. Does that make me a racist? I don't like Jersey. It's a state. Israel is a state. So it's not a race. It's a state, and so that's
but it's really very bad because they use their own. Go ahead. No, I was saying it's really bad because this is how the globalists work. This is how these bankers, these elitists work. These owners of the shareholders of the Federal Reserve and IRS. Since we've been talking about that all day, this is how they work, man. They are of their own. They are of all different religions. They're Christians and they're Jews, and the ones that are involved in this whole thing. And as far as Israel goes, they could care less about the Jewish people. Look what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's all about control. It's all about control.
Yeah, they're stuck in the game. They're the pawns. You know, the
Jewish people become the victims again.
I've seen. I'm sure you've seen pictures of Jews from Israel holding up signs that I'm a Jew and I don't believe in Israel.
Right.
You know,
yes.
So, but that ain't going to be on the Rothschild news agencies.
No, I know.
And the media and everything.
I know. And then now you're talking like a racist now, Vinny. See, you talk against you're an anti-Semite, Vinny. You see, you know how it is. That's insane. No, of course, no. Listen, I'm joking. I'm making a joke. But it's like that's what they do. They label you this or they label you that, and you're stuck with that label because everyone's dumbed down.
You know that even me, who's like, I really am an open person. Everyone knows me. But the Jewish thing is so touchy because there is so much bad. There is a lot that's done bad. Not to say that they're the only ones. Everybody's got their Christian.
Well, look at it. Like I'm Catholic. Look at the Catholic religion. The religion is the problem. It's not the people. There's bad things in all of these religions. They all have corruption and evil. They're all been co-opted by evil. All of them. So then you're not, you got to understand that. I don't care if you're an evangelical Christian or you're a Catholic or a Muslim or whatever. It's not purely good, and it's obviously not purely evil. So that's that's religion. I go with faith.
Well, this would be the Vatican. Anybody who wants to.
I know. You don't have to tell me. I mean, believe me. I know it's evil. I know there's
That's enough to take you a lifetime.
I know. And again, that's part of the division because now you're a Catholic hater or you're like, see, it's the same thing.
I'm Italian. I guess I hate Italians or Rome or whatever.
Well, no, but listen. Hey, listen. If you support the Catholic Church, you support child molesters and you support pedophiles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it doesn't mean that you're not supporting. But I see the institution makes it. It's very. How much credibility does it lose? The institution when they don't really see. If you find out that something like this is going on, evil stuff like this, and for centuries they've just been moving these priests away and moving them around, and finally enough people woke up and had the courage to come out and become like now everybody's coming out of the woodwork, and they can't cover it up anymore. But that's really the only reason. So I mean, come on, look at the institution. I mean. Is it the right thing? You got to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. If these people are evil, they should have prosecuted them and done whatever. If this is what they've done, if it's proven that they've done this. But no, they cover it up and they hide up their crimes. So that means that what else have they hidden up? If they're hiding that, what else are they hiding? And that's what breeds with any religion or any culture. The same thing with the Jews. I mean, you have these the Kabbalists, right, quote unquote, and the secret societies of the all that you were talking about. You know more about that end of it than I, with the 13 tribes and all that.
Ancient Jewish magic.
Yes, right.
Yeah, the Talmud and all that.
Yeah. So again, I mean, I just want truth. That's it. That's what we're here to get. The truth.
Yeah. Yep.
Has nothing to do with religion, everybody. Faith. Whatever you believe in is your truth.
A lot of propaganda we got to take on.
Get knocked out.
Propaganda for so long. It's a big battle that all of us, again, not just us, so many people, lots of us are engaged in this battle, and more people every day are joining our side. So let's keep the process going. People don't beat down. We all sometimes get upset and, doubt things or think it's taking too long, but we are winning. Don't let anybody tell you different. They are admitting it. I'm sure, Howard, you could attest to what I'm about to say. Is they've admitted that they're worried about how fast people are waking up.
Yes. Zbigniew Brzezinski said that. Yeah.
They know this is going on. They could try to downplay it all they want, but there is a big awakening going on. And like I said on the show, I mean, just 3-4 years ago, not even a chemtrail, nothing. I couldn't know. Everybody laughed at me for everything I said 4 years ago. I couldn't get nobody to believe in the Federal Reserve being a private bank. I couldn't even get them to understand that 4 years ago. Nobody. And here it is 4 years later, and I feel like, I feel like, honestly, it kind of has made it to everybody. It's just there's still a lot that just don't want to think about it and just push it off. But I really feel like almost everybody's had to have heard, like, the term Illuminati or New World Order, whether you listen to rap music or whatever it is. At some point, people in the past couple of years have heard about this.
Yeah, but you see, again, the thing is...
Do you agree with me?
100%. But what it is it's like what we're talking about. That's why I always say you guys got to do something. People on the couch. Now, if you're really on the couch and listening, most likely, you're pretty alert and aware and have a lot going on. But I'm talking about the average person out there. Even if they know that's going on, they're still so wrapped up in their mind-controlled little worlds that with their little routines and everything else. They don't have. They feel as if I don't know, somehow passive in the whole thing. Now there's a lot of those folks. Those are the people I'm trying to reach. The ones that I've talked to some people. I talk to everybody at work. I happen to have 100 people at my place, and most people, fortunately, are like I said, they know what I do, and then I'm in a good.
It's not a hobby; it's a lifestyle.
It really is a lifestyle, and I've woken a lot of people up. Just walking around and stuff like that, but also at work. I've seen the sheeple. a sheeple reaction to like a 25-year-old kid that's like in the customer service answering telephones, and she's like, "What's that?" End the Fed, and like I'm wearing an End the Fed shirt, on a Friday, a dress down day, or whatever, or Saturday would be. I'm off on Fridays, so and I'm like, it's the Federal Reserve. Well, what's that? Well, did you know this? And again, it goes to a question. Did you know that there's a private corporation? Would you be happy that they take like the money out of your check? That's the money that they take out, and it pays for a debt that was like from 1933, and actually now it's already gone, and the government went and bailed out these criminal bankers again and put us back into debt for another 100 years. So did you see what's going on here, everybody? And that's how I would wake them up, and then they start asking me questions, and you start giving links and websites and I do this constantly, and I think everybody needs to do this. And then they'll find their own. Listen, you're only going to out of 100 people. It's just like within a sales organization. If you hire 20 people, it's a numbers game. The 20 people you hire, 20% of them are going to make all the money, and 80% of them are just going to sort of like be there. There's always that same philosophy. So if you have 10 people in your sales team, you're going to have 2 that are really, really good, and the other 8 is sort of like just in the middle there. It's a numbers game. I know that from being in management in the past and in sales for many years. And that's exactly it. You're in this idea is that you're going to have 2 people maybe out of 10 people that you talk to that are going to really get the idea, and they're now still like in their iPods and in their whatever else they're doing, whatever their little world is. So those people that you touch, it's just the beginning. They have to continue to get this information so that then they'll start to realize more and more. Well, it's like, hey, who makes that CD player that you're listening to right there? It's made by GE. Who owns GE? Well, that GE has been partnering with the government for over 100 years. What? No. Yeah. Do you know they shut down competition and Rockefeller owns most of the stock? What? No. So that's how I do it, and you just keep doing it. And if you see somebody on a daily basis, then you wake them up. Or if you give them this information or a way to get to it. And then once they start realizing, you got to find out, how is it going to hurt them? What's in it for me? Unfortunately, everybody wants to know what's in it for them. Well, what's in it for you? You don't want to be robbed. You don't want to be lied to, right? So that's how you wake people up. Listen, you've been lied to your whole life. What if I told you I'd give you $100 if you could prove me wrong? People, that'll make them react. And they'll do it. And they'll look for that $100.
On 9/11, one of the things we were on the street corner. We marched from the Ground Zero protest all the way to 42nd Street, a bunch of us. And one of the things, I was like really amped up. I was going at people that day. I was bad. And the one thing, I come up to this corner and I take out a $100 bill and I started yelling at Howard. I swear to God, right in by Times Square.
I'm like, $100, anybody can tell me how Building 7 came down. I just started walking around like that. And then, yeah, I did that actually, literally did that right in the streets of Manhattan, and everybody's just looking at me.
That's amazing. That's great, man. But that's it. That's what we got to do. We got to like give these people react to unfortunately things that they want. You know, like money or like a meal. I'll give you. Yeah, I'll tell you what. If it's a buddy of yours that's a skeptic, I'll tell you what. I'll buy you a steak dinner with all the trimmings, lobster, whatever you want. Okay. If you just prove me to be wrong about this, and this, and you start getting, they can't because you're telling them the truth. So I mean, you're never gonna lose the money, everybody. It's a setup. It's a sales technique, actually, and I'm not trying to hide that fact, but it's a sales technique to reveal truth. And people are motivated by money. They're motivated by free gifts. Why do you think they always have free everything everywhere? And I'll get, here, you buy this thing, and I'll get you 3 months free, and all this other bullshit. It's all bullshit. Truth is not bullshit, though. But all the bullshit sometimes you got to use it to get to the truth. Hey, listen, I'll give you a steak dinner if you can prove me wrong. I mean, honestly, part of the way I woke up was somebody who offered me a similar type. Yeah, well, part of it. Yeah, a friend of mine. I had dinner, and it wasn't like money really. He just made an offer to me. It wasn't about money or dinner, but it's that same idea. He's just like, you have to challenge people. Some people will just be challenged without you having to offer them money. But then the average person probably wouldn't be. Again, this is all like sales 101, guys. But out there, that's how easy it is. If you know there's truth, whatever it is, and you want to say, you just say, here's $100, or I bet you whatever it is, and they'll look for it and they'll find it. Anyway, but that's all I have to say on that. Yeah, hopefully so. Again, we got Ronnie Bennick and Chris Honeyfield coming up with Outside the Margins. Again, I want to give a shout out to everybody for at We Are Change Connecticut. WeAreChangeCT.org. A lot of great links there, and a lot of good information you can get from the site. Various different opinions on things and such, and links to different things, because this, after all, is a free society, and we should choose what we, wish to believe, but seek truth. Seek truth. Don't just believe what somebody tells you, not what I tell you or anyone else, or Vinny or anyone. Find your own truth and defend it, because if we don't defend our truth and our rights, there'll be nothing left to defend. So I just want to thank everybody for tuning in, and thank Joe Banister. You got anything to close with, Vinny?
Just the listeners, like we were saying, man, and Joe Banister, let's just keep talking. We just keep waking up the people and be positive. Be positive. We're doing good. We're doing things. So I just want to leave on that positive note.
All right. Excellent. Okay, I guess then until next Saturday, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, here on informedradio.com, simulcast on projectfreedom.ws, and the video stream at truthbroadcastnetwork.com. I'm Howard Nema, and Vinny Be the Truth is my co-host, and we'll be happy to see you again next week. God bless you all, and death to the New World Order.